Suk, Ortner, Buckley in here for you today for the next 4 hours. Big man, how we doing?
Ahoy there. Yeah, it's great. It's like that week where no one's productive whatsoever. No one's in the office. No one's on the roads. Like no one cares about anything. Like I said, the week before the 4th of July is a little bit like the week before Christmas. There's no commerce getting done. No one cares about anything. It's supposed to be really hot. Like no one just, this whole week should just be, they should just do like a national holiday.
Yeah, just give us the week. I mean, I think in Europe they have like 5 weeks of like holiday vacation a year. I mean, like
That's
everything is
essentially
celebrated.
what this is. Do you know anyone that's working hard right now?
No. People are working. No one's working more than 3 days this week except for us.
And quote, working. There's a lot of people sitting in the, like Tara, our promotions manager, is working. She's
you
like,
could tell.
Well, because they've got, we got like the rodeos, we're doing like the Malala Buckaroo. She's like sitting beside me and just cursing to herself. You want to know how like swag is?
That's how you know.
Yeah, swag is master of the fake work. Like this is one for like Will, like a young and up and comer. If you want people to leave you alone, do a lot of this.
No one wants to talk to the sighing guy.
No, and then like he'll rub his forehead. He's like, oh man. Like that's fake. I'm busy. Tara's over there, our promotions lady, and she's like typing emails, and while she's doing it, she's just cursing. And not at anything in particular, just the world. And it's like that muted, like F word under your breath. And I'm like, now that's someone that's actually working.
Yep.
Other than her, no work is getting done in this office whatsoever. None.
Tara works very hard. Will also works hard. I feel like he is on every other show when he's not on our show.
Well, Will is taking the approach of the best ability is availability.
Absolutely.
Can't make the club in the tub.
Yeah. When Will was a young whippersnapper coming up, like we love Will and we want Will to succeed. And that was what I told Will way back when, was like, just show up. If you're just here, things will happen. In the world of radio, there's just holes. It's like the world of Swiss cheese. Be the Colby Jack that fills the hole. It doesn't have to be the right kind of cheese. It's just a filler and it works. And if you're there long enough, you just become part of the slice. And Will does that better than anyone, to the point where it's the world famous Will Ortner couch. Like everyone else can't make it in because of the snowstorm. Will just sleeps here.
Not Klondike Ortner.
No, that's what he does.
I need the money.
I'm very interested now.
I love that about you. That's Will's answer to anything. I need the money.
We've all been there.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. No,
I work hard, man.
Will's out there hawking meat out at the mall.
I
He's
heard
sleeping
that.
on couches.
Yeah,
he's the
40
hardest
$40
working man.
for 20 ribeyes.
Come
Good
get
deal.
my meat at the mall.
That's right.
Right by the Hobby Lobby.
I will never forget. The first time I heard that, I loved it. I was like, that's right. Will out by the Hobby Lobby.
Hawking meat.
Hawking discount meat in the mall parking lot. I'm like, hells yeah. That's what they don't teach you in broadcasting school. You want to make it in this business? You hawk some T-bones out of the parking lot of a Hobby Lobby. That's how you get it done.
I'm a big fan of hawking meat. I like the meat hawking deals.
It got my attention. When I heard the ribeye deal, I was like, oh, ribeye. Like I remember when the Schwann's, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, when the Schwann's truck would drive around.
I don't know that.
You don't know the Schwann's truck?
Schwann's? Is that a brand?
Yeah, well, it was like
or a store?
No, it's like a company, and they had like these yellow. They were a thing maybe 15 years ago when I was in the center. The text line, the Vancouver 4 text line, I know what I'm talking about. And they would come out, and it was like these big like ambulance looking cars with all the like a van. And had all the little different frozen compartments, and they would just deliver. They would just show up and be like, "Hey, what you want?" And they would give you like a little menu.
I love this.
Yeah, and you could buy steaks, you could buy like just like random meats. They would have like weird like, "Hey, you want some cordon bleu?" Like pre-made cordon bleu. It was the Schwann's guy.
Okay.
And I remember like growing up, we would get Schwann stuff, and then when I lived out in the center, every now and then, one of my neighbors.
Sounds like an adult ice cream man.
Yeah, it's an adult ice cream man. One of the neighbors, the Schwann's guy, and like even though I wasn't like part of like the I guess like that's not why he was coming out there. I flagged him down once, and so he would just come by my place.
That's amazing.
And you never know when
your own personal like meat delivery man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is an adult. You don't know when the ice cream man's coming. You just hear the that weird little jingle, and it means that either someone's going to get touched inappropriately or you're going to get delicious treats, possibly both. That was like the Schwann's guy, but with meat.
As you predicted, the text line, the Vancouver 4 text line, all over this one, they said the Schwann's is still around.
Still around?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and it's not as prevalent. I think now with I don't know, with Will's discount parking lot meats, and they've got Omaha steaks, and I don't think it's as prevalent now because you can do so many delivering services. But I'm glad they're still out there. Yeah, the Schwann's guy.
Yeah, there was a grocery store that was closing down near me, and every Friday they were like taking out all of the frozen meat they had in like their storage and just being like, everything's half off. Everything's half off.
Well, my grandfather on my step grandfather, one Robert Brown, who was my dad. His dad, Newell K. Brown, aka healthiest boy in Utah, like 1936.
That's right.
He was a hardened man. Like he grew up on a dirt floor, and his dad was a butcher, his mom was a seamstress, so they would trade for everything that they would have. They didn't have any money. They just were strictly a barter system in southern Utah.
Okay.
So when Newell grew up, Newell was
Man, what a way of life.
Yeah, dude. He was something else. So he made a deal with like I think it was Smith's was the local grocery chain down in Utah. So when meat became no longer viable to sell, the expired by date, old Newell made a deal, like a back alley deal, where he would go and collect all the expired meats from the Smith's grocers, and that's what my dad grew up on.
Oh boy.
So and then like he would like trim some of it, and my dad, all growing up, my dad would never he would never find a piece of meat that my dad wouldn't eat.
I was going to say, so do you feel like you were is this the era when the expiration date really had some wiggle room and it actually probably was 2 weeks later, or was it really that date and your dad was just into the raunchy meats?
I just remember growing up thinking that some of the stuff my dad ate was like, I don't know, like he would go into the freezer and he would produce things that I don't know when the last time we had that, Dad. And he'd be like, it doesn't matter. And he would throw garlic salt on it and like pepper.
Sure.
And he would cook it. And it was he would eat it. And he would try to give it to you like, dude, I'm not touching that. And I never understood. I'm like, what are you doing? And then I met his grandfather and I saw what he would eat. Like you'd go over to my when I went to school in Utah, and first time I'd ever been to my grandfather's quote house.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd go over there and he'd be like, I'm cooking up some steak for you. Or he'd say, I'm cooking up meat. And you'd be like, what do you got, steak? And he's like, yeah, it's meat. And he wouldn't tell you what it was. And you would just look at that and he'd be like, eat it. And you're like, no. And that's when I realized that's where it came from. There's a long line in the Brown family of just eating whatever.
Well, it's a big week for that, Jason, because we have the hot dog eating contest coming up on Thursday.
Same thing.
Of course.
If you're eating a bunch of hot dogs, you don't know what you're eating.
Although if it doesn't include Kobayashi or Chestnut, who really even cares,
I
right?
thought I saw the Chestnut.
Or is he doing it now?
I think he's going to do it. I think he's doing his own, and like, bro, I don't think he's being invited. I think he's going to be.
I thought he was at like a standoff with Nathan.
That's what I'm saying. I think he is.
But he's still doing it.
Well, yeah, I think he's going to do like RFK did his own debate.
Yeah.
And like no one cared.
Yeah.
I think that's what Chestnut's doing.
That was a fascinating concept, by the way. Did you see kind of how he orchestrated that?
I
mean, I didn't watch it. I heard about how they did it, and I'm like, for someone not being included, that's a pretty creative way of trying to make yourself included.
And I think that's what Chestnut's doing. I think he's going to do some sort of streaming thing. So as the competition at Nathan's goes live, he's going to be eating.
Oh, that's genius. He'll put it on his YouTube channel probably, get a ton of revenue.
Yeah, some dude's going to eat like 51, and then, Chestnut's going to choke down like 70 wieners and be like, yeah, I'm the real champ. So I think that's his, even though he's banned, I think he's going to do his own thing.
Interesting. Well, Isaac is in Vegas for most of the week, but that is where our esteemed producer today, Will Ortner, just got back from. And so I am interested in what Vegas looks like.
Bachelor party Vegas,
yeah,
right?
We'll probably have to get into some greater details in the club, but overall, my understanding is that you came back with money in your pocket.
I did. I did not win money. I did not lose all of my money. So I'm counting that as a W.
Oh. Well, okay. So
you came back with more than you budgeted for.
No one goes to Vegas and like has 3 days in Vegas where you're eating food everywhere, you're, drinking all the drinks everywhere, and then gambles a little bit and then is like, I won all my money back That's kind of how I view it.
You just deferred some of the cost. You Bobby Bonita. That's fine.
I was going to say, speaking of deferment, it's a big day.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a solid.
I set aside X amount of money for gambling, and I brought most of it back.
Okay, that's a win.
Excellent.
And it's an interesting juxtaposition because you had Will at like a mid-20s bachelor party and then old man Rob at the Win. Those two
turning his nose up at just about anything that a mid-age young bachelor party would do.
Yes, like those.
You couldn't come up with two more different Vegases, I don't think.
That is fire and rain right there. Just a lot of separation between the. Where did you stay at?
The old Hooters Hotel?
Yeah.
That'll never happen again.
Turn that hat around.
Yeah,
we know what you're
That'll
rocking
be for
today.
the club.
Rob stayed at the Win. So is there a new Hooters hotel?
No, I think they're going to tear this one down.
Yeah.
Like, they've already torn down the Tropicana, and it's right next to it. Like, the AC's broken, and no one was trying to fix it. They've got one elevator going, and you've got two towers.
Like a fall from grace. Like, Hooters at one point was like this juggernaut. And there's none left in Oregon. I don't think there's a single one left in Oregon. Remember, there used to be like a Hooters plane, and
I see what you did there.
Yeah, like all that. Like there was a calendar. I lived in Florida. Dude,
I used to get the calendar when I was a like seventh grader. You know,
they're big on the East Coast.
Yeah, are they still big on the East Coast?
Specifically Florida.
I was gonna say I think they're huge in Florida.
Hulk Hogan will keep those afloat by himself.
Yeah, because when I lived in Florida, there was just a Hooters everywhere. They were like Starbucks out here, and I just thought to myself, because Florida also has a lot of other establishments you can go into. I never understood the allure of Hooters. To me, it was like buying men's magazines, like the Maxim. You know, I'm like, you can just buy a magazine that shows everything. Like instead of going to Hooters, you can just
see Hooters though.
You can just go to you can just go to A-Crop.
The Hooters though was perfect for like a middle school boy like me who was like kind of squeaky clean, but like wanted to, had the juices flowing a little bit. Was very interested in that. That's
what Jiggles was for.
Yeah, I wasn't getting to a place like that, nor was I getting the penthouses or the like.
Right after the races on Wednesday night, PIR, that was high school. You could get in, I think, for free or cheap. You would jump over to the Hooters. Also, the Hooters was where all the Hawkinson girls, after they graduated, that's where they went to work for like a 3-year period.
It was like the training grounds. Hooters are just training grounds again it's a stepping stone job to you move to the main stage.
I think there was a toe dip in, and I think most of them got out of that pretty quickly.
The saddest time I've ever experienced in my life was at a Hooters on New Year's Eve.
Ooh.
This was like 6 or 7 years ago, and I was meeting a gal when we were going out for New Year's, and she couldn't meet up till like 9. So I got off at 7, and I thought, no big deal, I'll just kill time at a bar, right? Dude, there are no bars open on New Year's Eve. They're like, they shut down. I was like, or they're all like ticketed events, right? So I was like, well, my gosh. So I was like looking around for a place, and so I did the the Google Maps. You're like, hey, places that are open, and Hooters was open. So I was like, I got like an hour I got to kill.
Sure.
I was like, I'll go into Hooters. Oh, I haven't been into a Hooters in a decade. Let me tell you something.
It doesn't look like anything's changed.
No, man. If you ever want to see the saddest group of individuals, and I'm talking waitresses, bar staff, and patrons, go to a Hooters at like 8 o'clock on New Year's Eve.
I bet.
Dude,
it's like being at the Denny's on Christmas or whatever,
Yes.
It's got that kind of connection.
Dude,
yeah.
I'm not here. Like, you should never quit, ever. But if someone left that Hooters that night and was like, you know what, I'm heading to the garage and this is done, I'd be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, go to the light. Oh my goodness. That was my last time in a Hooters. I don't think I can go back. I don't think I'm afraid that like clinical depression. I think you get clinical depression for going to a Hooters.
The wings sucked.
See, and you know what? I'm gonna
horrible
disagree on that.
breakfast wings. No, the Vegas
Wait,
wings.
Did you just say breakfast wings?
Well,
No, the Vegas wings.
I had landed and I had to go get some boneless breakfast wings. That was the
Breakfast
only
wings.
spot
Well,
open.
boneless was your
in the
first
hotel.
mistake, but
Dude, they're not good.
I used to think that Hooters had good food, but then again, I haven't eaten at a Hooters in 15 years, so I don't know.
Like I said, I don't think you can. Like I don't know where the closest one is. Probably like Idaho.
Tell you what, if you go to Vegas, don't do it.
Well,
Yeah.
Don't do it.
We're going to try to get more of Will's Vegas tales probably a little bit later in the club. A couple things we need to get to today. The minimum wage is going up in Oregon. We'll address that in the news. We'll, of course, have the Hot 5 at 5. Will have the stock watch for us at 4:15. And we need to get into a little bit of NBA free agency and really how much does it matter? Because it seems like it's a big calendar event within the league, but you look at some of the pieces, and Suk and I have questions about which teams are actually making moves that have an impact. But first, Goose Gossage, the old reliever, making a little bit of noise in the news. We've all gone too soft, and we're going to talk about it with our poll question coming up next on Primetime, 1080 The Fan. I want to get into a topic here that came up from an article Sook sent me. You can actually find this article at Odyssey.com. It's one from Goose. It's based off of an interview that Goose Gossage did on the Brett Boone podcast. By the way, I didn't know Brett Boone had a podcast.
Then clearly you don't listen to the Odyssey app.
I mean, well, I do listen to the Odyssey app. I just do it for the live streaming though. I don't really use it for the podcast as much.
Well, if you're listening to Dirt and Sprague, like every other commercial is Brett Boone telling you about how awesome his podcast is and how sweet his frosted tips and his giant forearms are.
Those two things were unheralded at the time.
He is something else. He's an interesting fellow, but his every now and then his podcast has some interesting people on it. A la Old Man Angry Goose Gossage.
So, speaking of Old Man Angry Goose Gossage, he basically went scorched earth on all of baseball.
Everybody.
And every different aspect of it.
Baseball.
And there is a huge element to this that is an old man yelling at cloud and, the times have passed him by and he doesn't like the way things are now, blah, blah, blah. We've seen it outside of the realm of sports, inside the realm of sports, in all the different sports, but basically, he says that everyone has become giant wussies, or you can choose which consonant to replace there.
Yeah, you got to throw a P in front of that.
Yeah, and so, but overall, you look through some of his quotes, and he says things like, "These nerds that are running the game today have no idea or respect." Manfred starting at the top, he's a nerd, and that's the bottom line. That there's no respect from these people that are running the game. They wouldn't know respect if it hit him in the face, Brett. Brett's him at the end there.
I love anytime someone breaks out nerds. Like, you want to talk about like the most nerds. The nerds at the top, they're ruining the sport.
But then he goes on to say they're being turned into peas because they're run by a bunch of peas that have no idea. They don't even train these players correctly anymore. If you're a coach in the big leagues, today you're just the most well-paid babysitter on the planet. I found that one to be the most damning. There were a lot of different quotes in here. I don't know if there were ones that jumped out to you, but it brings me to this question, and I know that we've talked a lot about this in the NBA with defense and the scoring era that's gone up. We've talked about it in football and the hits that have been ruled out. So I ask you today, as part of our AAA heating and cooling question, that's a family business, family owned for over 60 years, helping families. You can visit them at AAAIAQ.com. The poll question is, which sport has, quote, gone softest since, quote, back in the day? Is that football, basketball, baseball, or hockey? And how much merit is there to what Goose is saying?
That's an interesting one, because in one aspect, like Goose Gossage, I remember Deacon Jones was one of these guys in the NFL that was always running his mouth about this. I mean, a lot of the old timers in the NFL. You certainly hear this from hockey guys. I mean, for God's sakes, when I was growing up, people didn't wear helmets.
Yeah.
Like when I started watching hockey in the 80s and got into it in the 90s, there were plenty of people that still didn't wear helmets. Mm-hmm. And certainly I remember when visors, not face masks, visors became mandatory in hockey.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were trying to throw out the P word.
Yep.
I remember when two-a-days basically got banned, a lot of people that were my age and certainly older,
forced water breaks, certainly
went down the road of using that P word. And so it's this is always a tough one for me, because in one aspect they are certainly right in that the past versions of all sports were tougher. They were more physically demanded. You didn't make as much money. I think, by the way, that comes into play. A lot of this is a lot of old guys are mad because they didn't get paid.
Well, yeah, because they grinded their asses off and they didn't get nearly as much as what these pampered individuals are doing today.
You worked twice as hard. I don't know about twice as hard. That's a bit much.
But you probably worked harder, considerably harder.
You worked considerably harder. You worked worse conditions. Certainly, like the conditions were horrific. If you saw the facilities that I had in college, and then the Broncos actually had good facilities for the time, but if you saw the facilities that I had at BYU and then the facilities we had at Tampa Bay where we won the Super Bowl, you would be mortified. People don't believe me when I tell you that I issue not. The facilities at just about any high school, any decent high school that's been built over the last 10 to 15 years are nicer than anything that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or I had at BYU. Mm-hmm. And, there was 3 years that we were a top 15 team. It just wasn't a thing. Like, and taking recruiting trips around the Pac-12, outside of Oregon, most of the facilities sucked. Oregon State's were awful. Washington State's were abysmal.
Yep.
Washington, for as good as they weren't very impressive. USC and Arizona State, bad. I mean, Oregon's was the crown jewel, and everyone else was just kind of like Washington's were decent, and that was like being propped up. So you had worse conditions, you had worse medical staff, all of those things, and you got paid like a fraction of it. So I get where some of this is coming from. But at the same time, while yes, you can say that the games are softer, and yes, you can say that a lot of those things could be negative, but also hasn't the games, and I mean games across the board, haven't they all changed for the better of the players?
So, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. We're starting to get some of that right here on the Vancouver 4 text line. The first person in says, for F's sake, none of them have gone soft. New information has come out about science, and we've changed the way that we play the games because we know what it does to the body now. And I think there's, at least for me, with football, that absolutely has merit. I think that the game has benefited from some of these softer rules. Now, you can say, I think it helps with player longevity. You can say it's made the players a certain type of way. You could say it's made players more prima donna or more entitled or things like that. But I think the game itself is for the better since we've adopted some of these things that make the sport easier to maintain health. But when you look at a place like, I don't know, like the NBA, and somebody says the NBA has gotten cotton candy soft. You used to be able to punch somebody in the face and get away with it. I'm not saying we should bring that back, but you can't touch somebody in the NBA now.
Yeah, that's why I said I think this is a very complex issue. But I always try not to be. I mean, it's funny because me and Will were joking earlier today because I give Will a hard time because he's young, and Will reminds me so much of all the guys that I played with. Like, I'm so far removed from my playing days that when I see Will, I was joking, Will came in today and he's got like the skin tight polo on and the Hooters hat backwards. Like, he's very connected to that world. I am so far removed. And for as much crap as I like to give him about being, a 25, 26-year-old bro, I try not to be old guy yelling at the clouds when it comes to sports. In that I can look at the world of sports now and say, to me, it's not as good as when I was playing or when I grew up. I look at the NFL and I think the game is less enjoyable to watch.
In what aspect specifically? Or
I think you've just legislated a lot of what made football great. Like you can't hit anybody anymore. You can't breathe on a quarterback. And I'm not saying that it's turned into a 7-on-7 thing, but I think the way the game is played now, to me, it was a more enjoyable experience back in the day.
Do you think
if I was a player, I would want to play today's game.
Yeah.
I would not. I mean, I'm so dumb. Like I got knocked unconscious in 2 games. Not my bell rung. I was knocked out. Flat out.
Lights out.
Woken up with smelling salts. I finished both games. Like, that's stupid.
And a lot of guys did that.
Yes, and that is dumb. So this is why I say, like, I can sit here and tell you that from an enjoyment standpoint, I don't like watching the NFL today as much as I did back in the day. But I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that was better.
Right.
It's gotten better, but it maybe has made the product worse, right? So that's why I say this is it's a weird thing. Like, college football, some of the play on the field is horrific because you're not allowed to practice. You're not allowed to hit. You're not allowed to have 2-a-days. And so the product on the field has gotten much worse. But the athletes are so much better, and the athletes are getting paid now and compensated. So again, going back to it, I would not want to go back to the way it was, but it doesn't mean that I think that this product is better. So it's gotten better and worse, which is why this is such an entangled argument.
Yeah, it's a complex issue.
And so to me, when you get the Goose Gossages of the world, they just want to yell and moan about everyone being a bunch of peas. To me, it just comes across as sour grapes that you don't want to admit it, but you just wished you played in today's game where you made more money, you had better medical staff, you had better travel conditions, you made a lot more money. And I think if you grew up in today's game, you wouldn't be saying those same things. And so while they make some points, I don't know. It never quite sit right with me when someone lashes out like this.
I think it's also just a societal thing in general. Like, I mean, we're talking about joking around about it, but I get it all the time. Like, I remember going to school and, getting to use iPads and stuff, and people come in, oh, back in my day, I had to go look up in the thesaurus if I wanted to have a different word, and you just have spell check right there. I used to get graded on spelling. So I think it's just a natural thing to, go through something, then look back at it 10, 20 years later and say, well, it was so much better when I was going through it. And sports is just a microcosm of where we get to see it, because it happens all the time. Like, I drive a 2016 Camry that I was given, and I know that, there were buddies of mine and coaches of mine that were making fun of me, like, when I got my first car, I got a 1990 Accord. And it's like, yeah, well, you were 16 in 2000. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, should I have a 30-year-old car because you had a 10-year-old car? Like, that's not okay. So
I hear that too. And again, it's a societal thing. I love when like members of Congress or whatever, some talking moron is like, at 24 years old, I was making $7 an hour, and I supported a family of 3, and that's all I need. And you're like, dude, yeah,
different world, man.
It's a different world. Like, I bought a house when I was 20, whatever, I don't know, 24. I bought a house. Dude, my first house, this is like the old man, it was like $112,000. Like, you could do that. And so for me to sit there and tell my kids, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. I did it. You did. It's a different world. And so, and it doesn't mean it's a better world or it's a worse world. It's just a different world. And sports is always a microcosm. It's a microcosm of our values in society. It's a microcosm of the economy, all of those things. And so sports has definitely evolved in some aspects. From a visual standpoint, they're for the worse, and some of them are for the better. And so it's just, like I said, it's a very, very complex issue. And I just try to do my best to see both sides of it. And again, not to sound like an old man yelling to the clouds saying, back when I played, I was so much tougher than you. Well, cool. Now I'm 45 and I struggle to walk, and I have like spinal stenosis in my neck because no one took my health seriously. Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, and I got an award for it, for God's sakes.
Right.
I played an entire year.
Suki, you're an Iron Man. Way to go, bro.
I have
breaking my neck over here.
I have a kick-ass, dirty old trophy somewhere in storage that's for like being the toughest guy on the team for playing through a broken neck. Awesome. Way to go. No. That's stupid. And in today's world, like, that wouldn't happen. They would protect me from me. And so to say that the game is somehow worse, no, the game is, but like most things in society, most of the progress we make, whether you want to admit it or not, it's usually for the better. There's some negative aspects that come to it, but most of the time progress is good. That's why I always say, like, people's like, oh, if I could get in a time machine, where do you want to go back to? Really?
Yeah.
Where you pick this wonderful idyllic world that you want to go back into.
Yeah. Speaking of that idyllic world, the Vancouver Ford text line says, "Yeah, watch Let's Make a Deal and The Price is Right from 1968. Cadillacs were $7,000 and a can of soup was 18 cents."
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah,
it was different. But again, like, like, oh man, I want to go back to the 1950s. You sure about that? How white are you? Because you might if you're not white, you may not like going back to 1952. That may be a bit uncomfortable.
Caitlin Clark is white.
All right, lots of...
Are you a woman? Because you may not like that either. It's like, it's a very select group of people that the 1950s were great for.
Well, I really enjoy the show. Thank you. Bye.
All right, lots of good thoughts coming in on the Vancouver Ford text line. Want to talk about that. Plus, we've got a little bit of breaking news in the NBA. We have one of our first Supermax mega deals coming down the pike. We'll get to all that next, but first, Ortner has SportsCenter. that basketball has gone the softest. I would tend to agree on that among the other sports.
Well, it is weird. Like back in the 80s, you really could. I mean, the Kevin McHale Bad Boy Pistons, the Kurt Rambis. I mean, there was literally punches being thrown. That certainly is probably the biggest difference. Although, I mean,
hand checking too. I mean, even the little stuff.
I don't know. God, look at the NFL, man. Go back and look at some of the NFL like highlight. They'd be like, NFL's crunch time. There's dudes getting decapitated.
Well, and it's not as
literally just they were killing people. Like years later, those people were dying from it, and we were like, yeah, baby.
Earlier this millennium, we still had the Tom Jackson jacked up segment.
Yeah.
I remember being in college in like 04, 05, jacked up, as they're just like watching guys get absolutely obliterated, blindsided over the middle.
I watch highlight films now of like you see those clips come across, and it makes me cringe a little bit. That was, I don't know, that's how it was. Hockey was the same way. I mean, there used to be like the Scott Stevens, who was a defenseman. He would literally just like felony assault on players coming across the middle.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just Paul Correa, just these horrible. I remember this hit he took. He was an Anaheim Duck.
I remember that one well. It's the one where he passes out and
Yes.
he comes to, and you see the breath like get his visor going. Yeah,
and we all, I don't know, we all celebrated that, and it just feels weird now. So yes, I know the NBA gets the most crap, but all the sports have changed, and you just can't tell me that those things aren't good for the sport. And by the way, that's the same. Boxing used to be 15 rounds. We don't do that anymore because we found that, people were dying. The first UFC, you had guys wearing tennis shoes and there was no rules, and guys were fighting 3-4 times a night. We changed that because we found out that's not good. Like anyone that thinks that sports is soft and we should go back, you're the same guy that hates science. You're the same guy that's like, these candy ass doctors. Yeah, what an awful thing to have the advancement. It's like at some point you just have to accept the fact that we've learned more, and as we learn more, there's just things that we're like, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. Like I'm also fascinated by people like that are our age, Buck, that romanticize their childhood. Yes, some of that stuff was fun, but at the same time, I would never let my kids do any of that.
Well, and then people like to use that as the comparison. It's like, when I was a kid, I didn't even, my parents didn't want me around or didn't want to know where I was for 8 hours during the summer. And it's like, it's just times are different. Like things change. It's like, you don't have to compare. They're not apples to apples. That's for sure.
I never once wore a helmet growing up, ever.
Yeah.
But
riding your bike, you mean?
Yeah, ever. And like we would do dumb crap on our bikes all the time. Why my head isn't split open, I have no idea. But as an old man, what I do now, every time I ride my bike, I wear a helmet. Like when my kids get on their bike when they were kids, the first thing I did was like, put on a helmet. Yes, it's not as cool. Yes, you didn't feel all like evil Knievel type, but at the same time, I don't want my son or my son's head splayed all over the pavement. So even though I didn't wear a seatbelt either. I can't imagine putting my kids in the car and be like,
don't worry about it, honey.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Never once wore a seatbelt once growing up. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Those are terrible things.
Bunch of examples coming in on the Vancouver 4 text line. Boxing stopped having 15 rounds because a guy died on national TV. Smoking used to look cool, but probably wasn't that great, and we don't make that look cool anymore.
Still looks cool.
I'll admit.
In a casino, on a casino floor when you got the craps dice.
Look,
when Kelsey Plum does it with her cigars, that's cool.
Look, every now and then, look, I smoke cigars, and, it's every now and then, like, there's...
the rogue sig slips in there.
There's time and place for it. Time and place.
One we didn't really mention or get to, though, and I know it's very much, you talked about the Paul Correa, but hockey and that game, because I think a lot of people, old hockey heads, are not into the fact that the fighting has all but been eliminated from the game completely. The whole enforcer mentality that you have to be able to skate and score and pass. Like you can't just be the brute that goes out there and defends your team anymore. Like that's almost entirely been eliminated from the sport. I think that's probably also a good thing, but it definitely makes it have lost some of its essence.
Yeah, but at the same time, if those guys could skate, they'd still be on the ice.
Agreed.
Like, it's hard for me, if you're not a hockey fan, again, maybe this doesn't, ring true, but dude, there used to be guys in hockey that their sole purpose
their only job
was, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to get into a fight. but none of those guys were actually good hockey players. And then someone figured out that I just won't fight you. And if you come on the ice, I'm just going to skate around you and abuse you.
Mm-hmm.
And the game evolved. And it's just, that's the one thing I'll say about sports.
It polices itself to a degree, right?
To a degree. And just sports in general. And anyone that disagrees, I'm sorry, but you're a moron. Because I'll listen to a lot of different opinions, but this isn't an opinion, it's a fact. Today's athletes are just so much better at everything than they used to be. They just are. Like they're bigger, stronger, faster, better training modalities. They're better skaters, they're better shooters, they're better like all of that stuff. They just are. Like NBA gets this, we're like, oh man, back in the day, the fundamentals. Cool, dude. Nice fundamentals. Go watch a game from 1986 and tell me if today's players, just these lengthy freak athletes, take your mid-range game and they're going to send it square up your keister.
He didn't come to a jump stop. Yeah, okay, fine. He's dunking over you.
It just the games evolve. And you know, it just is. You can either be bitter about it, but the teams from the 70s and 80s would get murdered by today's.
And they love to say that today's players couldn't play by their rules. So it's always how it's going to be.
Well, again, you want to, you're like, well, we're going to rough you up and punch you. Cool. You're going to, that's your whole game plan to how to deal with someone is you're going to punch them as they fast break and 3-point your ass to death. Like, it's just, it's a different era. The game has evolved and they're all different. But to me, you just can't argue that the players of today's games are just that much better. And yes, there were freaks back then that's like some of the really great athletes, they'd be just fine.
Yeah,
today.
they'd be transcendent. They'd be just as good, just as competitive.
But the middle of the road dudes, dude, they're just scary. I look at high school athletes now, like some of these high school recruits that are 4 and 5 star kids. I'm like, what? Like, huh? Like, we didn't have you.
Yeah, they are full grown adult men. Yes.
And that's, you know.
One of them, by the way, made the Olympic team. Did you see that kid?
Yeah, 16 years old.
I was looking for a way to work that in because I don't know that it's we need to spend a ton of time on it. But the youngest male American track and field Olympian ever, 16 years old, out of Texas, I believe.
Yeah, I look at those. I always like looking when someone's like 16 or 17. I look at my kids and I'm like, worthless. What the hell are you guys doing? I'm like, you're a couple years old.
Is now, old
man. It's like, what is happening? Like, get to it. I've been waiting for one of my kids to do something worthwhile.
Has your printer been fixed yet?
No, I still have printer. I'm paying all this money for my kid to go to school to learn about computers, and he can't fix my printer. What the hell, man? What's going on?
I want to get into a little bit of college football recruiting and how that translates to success coming up. We'll, of course, have Stock Watch as well. But next, 60 seconds away from losing your job only to be saved by a subordinate. I'll explain. We'll do it next, coming up on Primetime, 1080 The Fan. Here in Portland get to choose what the new Burnside Bridge looks like, and we will decide on that together, Jason. We have some choices to make.
Can we get the bridge over the I-5 that matters, though? I mean, no offense to the Burnside Bridge, but
don't see a survey for that one.
Can we build that before we do anything else? The bridge that, God, we desperately need so very bad. But let's get another pedestrian bridge. That's what I really want. One of them there walking bridges.
Coming up next hour, we will have Stock Watch courtesy of Mr. Ortner, as well as the bridge news and other news coming up in the news. First, though, want to mention the fan merch locker. 1080thefan.com. We have more merch. We obviously had our very first drop bracket winners. We had the My Son is an Idiot. We had the Rockin' You on a Friday. Why did I say that? But now we've expanded our merch locker to include Dirt and Sprague, Danny and Dusty. We also have the Mike Lynch approved Help Mike Take a Swinge Against ALS. So you can check out all of those. They're good quality tees. I know that Jeff Rust just bought his last night.
Yes, and this is important to me. When we were launching the merch locker, one of my great stances.
Yeah, you said I won't get behind a BST.
I won't. There's nothing I hate worse than the concert or promotional t-shirt that's the Hanes Beefy tee.
Yep.
Absolutely drives me crazy. And I promise you, these are soft.
We've seen them.
Quality, stretchy tees. And you should buy them all, but if you're going to buy one, buy the Swin shirt. Obviously, if you don't know, longtime fan, host, producer, dear friend of ours, Mike Lynch, diagnosed with ALS. Of course, the Swinge, one of the great Mike Lynch drops of all time. So if and by the way, every dollar that of those t-shirt sales, the Swin shirts, that goes right in Mike's pocket. We're not raising awareness. That is going to help Mike and his family while he fights that absolutely horrific disease. So 1080thefan.com. You can see the fan merch locker. Buy them all, but make sure you buy your Mike Lynch Swinge Against ALS shirt.
Agreed. I need to go get mine. I will probably do that tonight.
Yeah. And for $25, man, it's a
quality tee.
Yeah, quality tee.
And now you know that the money's going to a good place, so that's excellent. Over the weekend, and we wouldn't normally get to talk about this with Rop in this chair, but I've been watching a bit of soccer because we've got the Euro Cup and we've got Copa America going on. I know you yourself are a Timbers and Thorns guys.
I do get thorny and I love the Timbers.
And I think some of the Timbers and Thorns are even represented in these tournaments. I think I saw Dairon Asprilla on it wasn't the Colombian team, the Venezuelan team. Now I'm not going to remember which one it was, and the text line will surely be all over me for it. But over the weekend, we had a situation where, and I'm sure this has happened in American sports too. I couldn't think of the last time though. The England head coach was on the hot seat. They were favored to win this tournament. And in the last game of their group, or in their round of 16 knockout, they're taking on Slovakia, and they were down 1-0 in the 96th minute of stoppage time. He was getting booed off the pitch the previous game, in which they played to a draw, I believe, and they should have won and easily been moving on as the 1 seed to their next spot in the bracket. But alas, they end up getting a bicycle kick goal. And I swear to you, the referee is going to blow the whistle and say game over at 1-0. Yeah. 30 seconds later, and this guy is out of a job. And I was just thinking about how crazy the sliding doors of it all is. We're talking about Gareth Southgate, the manager for the England team, bailed out by a Jude Bellingham bicycle kick to force extra time, and then they get Harry Kane with the winner in extra time. But I think about American sports, and if we've been in a spot, I'm sure that there have been athletes that have saved their coaches' jobs with maybe a miraculous play to save a win at the end of the season that got them to a plateau, but I can't think of anything quite like this.
Well, I've always said that I think it's kind of laughable when you do that you're coaching for your job. I love that. So we're going to fire you, but if you win this one game, then we don't fire you. So, it's the most arbitrary thing in the world. As you pointed out, right? This miracle bicycle kick, which, by the way, I did see the highlight of that. It's
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So if that bicycle kick goes in, you're a great coach and you're fine. Yeah, you can keep coaching. The same guy bicycle kicks that, and let's say it goes 4 inches higher and hits the bar, and then, nope, you're a loser and we fire you. That is such a either you're going to fire the guy or not, but that one game thing. But the one that jumps out to me is, and I'm sure, I don't know if I have the details of this exactly correct, but the year before the Giants beat the Patriots,
The 18-0 year?
Yeah, is it David Tyree?
Tyree. Yeah, David Tyree. Yep.
The year before, Tom Coughlin was going to get fired.
That's right.
And I think it was the last game of the year. I want to say it was against the Redskins at the time. And by the way, Washington wasn't any good.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the last game of the year. And supposedly that was one of those. And by the way, it's not like it was for like a playoff scene or whatever. It was just like they said, hey, if you lose this game, everyone's like, we're going to fire Tom Coughlin.
Unbelievable.
And they won some meaningless horse crap game against, like I said, I think it was the Redskins, but against someone like that. I think it was an in-division game. And they brought back Tom Coughlin on like one more year. And the next year, they find a way into the playoffs as a wild card team. Not like they were great. And those sons of guns go on and beat arguably the greatest football team of all time. What would have been the greatest football team of all time. And Tom Coughlin would have been fired had he not won that one game. And that's the one that I think about all the time. And I'm sure there's plenty are like that, but that one always sticks out of how close they were of firing Tom Coughlin.
Sounds like a great motivational technique. Hey, if you don't do well, you're going to get fired. And then he won a Super Bowl. I would give credit to the ownership group.
Well, the other great thing I saw on
2 Super Bowls.
That's right.
Yeah, but they didn't threaten to fire him after the first one.
That's true. The other thing I saw in soccer over the weekend, I will ask you guys whether this was an all-time blunder or an all-time trick. Did you see the game winner in the MLS from Atlanta United? I have it up on my screen now. Just Google Atlanta United winner.
Yeah,
I saw this, yeah.
Basically, the goalkeeper makes a save. The foremost attacker for Atlanta goes and takes a sip out of the goalie's water bottle behind him.
Oh, yeah.
Goalie doesn't realize that the guy is there behind him, and he kind of just stalks him like a tiger stalking his prey on the savannah. And when the goalie rolls it out in front of him, dude steals it, turns,
awesome as
game
hell.
winner.
It's like a hidden ball trick.
And I guess some people argued that it shouldn't have been allowed because
offsides?
because no one passed it to him. So since they had possession, there is no offsides. But I guess there is a rule that if you fully leave the field of play, you can't come back on and I don't know if it's like be the first to touch the ball like the NFL.
I have never seen that.
But this was also 97th minute. This was the last play of the game.
I can't say that I've watched a ton of soccer. It's weird because I go to more soccer games than I probably do anything else, but it hasn't translated to the TV.
Yeah.
I love going to Timbers and Thorns games, and I've been to a bunch of games over in Europe when I lived over there. It hasn't translated to the TV for me. Great live sport doesn't do it for me on TV.
I think there's an energy that kind of can't be captured. I feel similarly about hockey, where I still love to watch hockey on TV, but being there is a whole different experience entirely. So
that's crazy. I've never seen anything like that.
But I ask you, bigger blunder or better trick?
Boy, that seems more like a trick. But you would think that one of the other players would have hollered at the goalie.
Like this guy's looking back and they're all talking to each other.
I guess no one notices. Yeah, this isn't. I mean, I guess everyone's back's turned. It's a little bit like, remember they have some of those like where they'll send out a receiver and he lays down on the ground.
Yes, it's a lot like one of those.
It's a lot like one of those. And by the way, kind of heads up ballsy move by that dude who just kind of stalked the goalie.
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of badass. I've never seen that, and that's pretty slick. Although if you're that goalie, man, what a boner.
And for the whole
That's
team,
one of those,
the
like,
whole
ooh.
defense to have to swallow that. Ooh, rough. We will move ahead to a little bit of college football talk coming up next. Saw an interesting article about how many teams can win the national championship.
Not many.
It's based entirely on recruiting. We'll get to that next on 1080 The Fan.
years ago because I don't have any like kids to like mark the time. It throws me off because now that I have no kids in school, like the calendar kind of is like I'll walk by the school in
It's
the
a lot more
morning.
muddled.
Yeah, and I'm like, why isn't there no one here? I'm like, oh yeah, it's summer break.
It's summer.
Yeah, it's just the kids normally they're like the kids' year kind of would mark the passing of time. Now it's just one big, where the hell did the time go?
Need to revisit one of our topics from the opening segment. A lot of people in with their favorite Schwann's orders from the Schwann's truck. People like the chicken Kiev. They like the Salisbury steak. People liked the Haagen-Dazs-esque dipped chocolate bars that they
I remember
had.
those. They had I think they were called Nutty Buddies.
But you are not alone. But a lot of Schwann's fans out there.
But I guess now some people are saying that it's not Schwann's anymore. It's called Yellow.
Yeah, with an H on the end, I guess.
And
I
they're
have
saying
not...
that most of them now are just like delivered, but that the Schwann's actual drive-around trucks are still big in the Midwest. I'm telling you, when I was a kid, the Schwann's truck pulling up was a big deal because you could go out there and you could buy stuff. And my mom's relationship with food was not the best one. So like a little fat kid could go out and be like, I want this, 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 and this. It was all fried and ice cream, and my mom would just be like, okay. We will get loaded up in the garage freezer with Schwann's.
I love it. We will do our stock watch coming up next as Ortner takes us through what we're buying and selling from the weekend that was. But right now I want to talk about recruiting rankings and how much they matter. So there's a man named Bud Elliott who writes for 247 Sports. For a long time he was a Florida State writer. Now he's a national writer. But he's basically had a formula since 2013 on what it'll take personnel-wise for your team to win the national championship in college football. Mm-hmm. Going back to that year, so now it's held true for 11 years, you need 50% of your roster to have been blue chip recruits.
Sure,
that means
sense.
4 or 5 star recruits, and that is a really, really hard threshold to cross.
Dave Bartu has talked about this for years, and that like Dave can basically take his formula ever since they went to the BCS and now the playoffs and the expanded playoffs. But Dave is every year no one has ever won a championship he has like his own little metrics. And I think every year it's somewhere between like 10 and 12, and no one has ever won a title. I think 2 teams have played for a title that didn't fall into it. One was Oregon.
Yep.
And I think TCU was the other one.
Yep, you're correct.
They're the only 2 teams to fall outside of his criterion. Again, it's a talent thing.
Yep, absolutely. Basically, if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes, the X's and O's don't matter.
Yes.
That you have to have the guys. And this, frankly, is what Oregon, kind of as an institution, has been trying to build towards for years.
Yeah.
It's just get the guys, get the personnel, be big enough that you can handle that part, because you're really never going to make it being the little guy with the tricks and the flashy stuff.
No, someone, I forget what it was, when Oregon lost to, I think it was Texas in a bowl game years ago, that Phil Knight had the super secret meeting with all the powers that be and said, what do we have to do?
Yeah.
Tell me what we need to do in order to win. And that was when they laid out the modern approach to Oregon football, and they became Nike. And since then, Oregon has been on this trajectory. And Dan Lanning, if you're not paying attention to what Dan Lanning's doing, like I can't tell you how many different national podcasts or articles that I've read or listened to where people are like, dude, around the country, everyone is afraid of what Dan Lanning is doing. And that on the national recruiting trails, the Oregon thing is becoming a big deal. And I know some people take shots at his acumen as a coach, and rightfully so. They've never won anything. But you know who else doesn't have a very good acumen as a head coach? Dabo Swinney. Mm-hmm. And Dabo's got 2 national championships because Dabo back in the day was able to get kids. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the only battle.
It's a dadgum mistake.
But it is by far the biggest battle in college football is just assembling talent. And Lanning is doing it right now at levels we've never seen.
And you can certainly make the argument that Dan Lanning has not proven his chops as a coach yet, and you have basis for that argument. That doesn't also mean that he's not building a monster, and those things don't have to overlap. You cannot show great coaching chops and still be building a ridiculous roster, and that roster is the prerequisite of getting yourself one of those titles if you can figure out the coaching part. And he's a young coach.
Well, and to be honest, if I had the choice between having an elite coach and an elite roster, I'll take the elite roster. You take the elite roster.
This says you have to.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of what teams fall into this. But Coach Kyle Whittingham recently, a couple years ago, said he didn't want to coach past 65. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of softened on that a little bit, but
because he is 65 now.
He turned 65, and Morgan Scalley, who's been their defensive coordinator for forever, I think he's been at Utah for like 17 years. They just named him today the successor. They're not saying when Kyle Whittingham's going to retire, but look, Kyle's done here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like Kyle Whittingham, I think, is one of the best coaches in college football. But Kyle Whittingham's never going to win a national title. You can't win a national title at Utah. You just can't. So, if you ask me who's a better coach, Kyle Whittingham or Dabo Swinney, it's Kyle Whittingham. But Dabo's got 2 national titles. So, the difference between having a great coach and a great roster, you have both, and now you're scary. Now you're Alabama. But, dude, give me the roster. You're going to win more games with an elite roster and a non-elite coach. Now, you can't have an imbecile as a coach. But if you give me a competent coach or even just a solid coach and an elite roster, and I'll have a better team year in and year out. I just will.
It also feels like that is a more fixable situation. Having the dudes and having the personnel and saying we have to tweak the way we do things, the way we scheme, the way we plan, the way we coach, that to me seems easier than, well, we just need all new guys.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's hard to do. We've seen Deion Sanders really struggle with that at Colorado.
Yes.
It's not easy to set yourself up for long-term success because often you need the success right now. But if you're putting all your eggs in the scheming basket and you're not going out and getting the guys, you've got a big problem.
Well, and anyone that's played at a high level in Division I football, like, you'll know. I mean, no offense to, and maybe you're lying to yourself, but if you played at Oregon State and you played at Arizona, you know the difference between your roster and national title rosters. I mean, like I said, I played at a good, solid program. 3 of the 5 years I was there, we were a top 25 team, and I think once we got up to like 6th in the country. By the way, we weren't the 6th best team in the country. Okay, well, we weren't there, but at one point we were ranked. We were ranked up there. But I had the pleasure or privilege or honor to play Alabama and Florida State. I played Florida State the year they won a national title with Chris Weinke and Peter Work.
They have Snoop Minnis on that team too?
I don't remember if he was on there or not. Tommy Pauly was on there, Darnell Dockett, Corey Simon. They were really good.
Yeah.
And I also played some good Washington teams that went on and played in a Rose Bowl.
National title caliber teams.
Yeah, I played against a good Arizona State team, with the Rose Bowl team with Jake Plummer and Pat Tillman and those guys. Like, I saw good teams, and then I saw championship teams. And there's a difference between my roster when I played Cal and teams like that.
And it's also not to say that your roster can't beat a team like that as a one-off.
As a one-off.
But running through it now, a bracketed playoff, running through a gauntlet of a season, not going to cut it.
Yeah, it's not going to, like Oregon or Boise State can beat Oklahoma State with a month to prepare in a bowl game and a
bag of tricks. Yeah, absolutely.
But I say this all the time. If you put that Boise State team in a real conference, dude, they lose 4 games. It just is. And so when you look at the national title thing, there's only a select few that have the chops to get it done, because just from a roster standpoint, top to bottom, and that's what you'll realize whenever we played one of those truly elite teams. This was always my difference. It wasn't even necessarily like the entire starting 22. I said when we played that Florida State team, they had 4 or 5 guys that were different than what we had. They were. But I would say that for the most part, like if we're taking all 22, we had a bunch of guys that could have played over there. It wasn't like, every matchup we were like, oh my God, but they had a couple guys that were different, that were like, ooh. But the depth of it was where it really stuck out. A handful of guys, and then just the depth of the roster. And so when you look at Oregon, like this year, and I say this is the most talented team that Oregon's ever had, there's some people would be like, oh, you're ridiculous. Look at this team. And I'm like, no.
That's results based.
That's results based. And yes, they may have had a couple guys that were truly special. Haloti Ngata was
otherworldly.
As good as any college football defensive lineman I've seen since Steve Ettman. But when you look at this Oregon team, there are NFL guys at every single level.
Yep.
It just there is not a position on this team that doesn't have an NFL guy, and they're building depth, and that is the difference. When Oregon played Ohio State in the national title, when they got to the fourth quarter, what won out? Some of those truly elite guys and the depth, and they just physically got worn down. When they played Auburn in the national title, there was a guy in the middle for Auburn that Oregon,
Nick Fairley,
that just Oregon could not block.
Yep.
no offense to their O-linemen, which were solid O-linemen, they could not block Nick Fairley. Plain and simple. He ruined the entire game for them.
Yep.
Couldn't do it.
Disrupted everything.
And you're building a roster now where that one guy can't take over a game, and you're not going to wear down in the fourth quarter. Doesn't mean you're going to win those games, but you're starting to build the foundation to where you're starting to look like those teams that have won national titles in the past. Even though you've gotten to the doorstep of it, I don't think any of those teams they had were truly national title level teams. And I feel like, at least from a roster construction,
yes,
this is starting to get formed.
Doesn't mean they'll do it. It
No.
doesn't mean we're calling our shot here, but what it means is they have a roster that's capable of it. I do want to go through the numbers really
Yeah, I
quick.
wanna see it.
So Oregon has the 5th highest blue chip rating or blue chip percentage, 76% of their roster 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I guess, how many of there's 16 teams total that fall under this greater than 50%. How many do you think are outside of the Big Ten or SEC?
Gosh, not many. I'm going to say maybe 2.
3.
3.
Yep. So you've
Florida
got
State, maybe.
You've got Clemson.
Yeah.
You've got, let's see here.
I was going to say Clemson.
You got Clemson, Miami,
Oh, Miami's there?
and Notre Dame.
Huh. So not even Florida State, huh?
Not even Florida State. The
Interesting.
list, Ohio State, 90%.
Yeah.
Alabama, 88%.
Yeah.
Georgia, 80%. Texas A&M, 79%. Then you get Oregon at 76%. Right behind them, Oklahoma, 73. Texas, 72. LSU, 70. Notre Dame, 67. Clemson, 64. Florida, 63. Miami, 61. Penn State, 61. USC, 59. Michigan 56. Michigan, by the way, won the championship last year with 54%, which is an exceptionally low number for that range.
Sure.
And then Auburn with 53%. So those are your 16 teams.
Yeah, and again, none of those should surprise you. And for the Vancouver 4 text line, hey, we've heard about Oregon recruiting for years. Have they won a national title yet? No. Totally get where you're coming
Absolutely.
from. If you're a Husky fan or anyone else, you have absolutely the ability to point at that.
This doesn't say that they will do that, but they're equipped to.
But what I would point out is they've been to 2 national title games, and both of those games were pretty close.
Had a chance to win either one.
One was really close. One was close in the fourth quarter. And for anyone saying that this is an Oregon team that is this, no, I'm telling you.
Built different.
Top to bottom, this is different. And look, I am the first one to say that Dan Lanning has proved nothing.
Yeah.
He hasn't. He hasn't proved anything on the field. But I'm telling you, from an eyeball standpoint, from a talent standpoint, this Oregon team that they are constructing is built differently than every other Oregon team that I've been doing this for 20 years. I have never seen a team that is constructed like this. Doesn't mean they're going to win jack squat, but as far as titles, but they will win a lot of games because they are going to maul people. Because this is what happens when you assemble a roster that is on par with Ohio State and Alabama. I'm telling you, 80% of the games that you go out and play are done before you ever step on the field. From a physical standpoint, you maul people. You're going to get to the point where you've got 3 games every year that from a talent standpoint, teams should even compete with you. And then maybe one game somewhere along the way where your head's up your arse, the ball goes, funky, you sleeper team, and you have to fight off an upset. But you are building... You're building a team that is that's different than what we've seen. And to be honest with you, a team that I didn't believe could be built in Eugene. I was always of the mindset that there was a limit to what
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it. There was a limit to what you were going to be able to do in Eugene, because even during the heyday, it was hard to get kids to come here. And whether it's NIL, I think a lot of it's NIL, the facilities and all that, more kids are open to the idea of coming to the Pacific Northwest. It just isn't. You're winning battles now against teams that you've never won battles against before, and you're doing it on the regular.
I think some of it too, and I know we have to break, so I'm sorry, but I do think a lot of it is most of the kids that you're recruiting are around my age, right? A little bit younger. When I think of Oregon, I think of LaMichael James. I think of Jonathan Stewart. I think of
D'Anthony
success,
Thomas.
right? Like for most of my life, save for 2 years, 3 years with Helfrich, you have been successful and you've been in the conversation.
And they were cool.
Right. And so I think that has also helped. And of course, NIL helps. Being a part of Nike helps. Lanning, of course, his crew is full of nails recruiters. But I do think the successes from Bilotti, from Chip Kelly, have led into why kids want to go to Oregon. They view you as a juggernaut. They don't view USC or UCLA.
And USC is not necessarily viewed as cool. I've heard this from so many kids, and I would talk to Nemec about recruiting, and he tells me all the time, man, that when you talk to kids that grew up in that era, USC is kind of viewed as old and stuffy, right? They're traditional, and it's not that cool. The LA isn't considered like this great environment, and the Ducks have, for lack of a better term, they've got that the deficit attention deficit syndrome kid thing, flashy, little clips, social media era. They have figured it out. They were the cool school when these kids were growing up, and it's weird to hear a kid from Florida or Maryland or Texas say, "Hey, growing up, my dream school was Oregon," but you hear that a lot, and that is again something that I didn't believe that I'd ever hear.
By the way, you asked about Florida State, 49% for
So
them.
it's
So
right-
they are right on the
right
doorstep
there, right
of
on the
making that
cusp.
list. We got to go because Will Ortner has Stock Watch. That's coming up next on Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
Built for power or for speed?
When your ship comes in and you've got the stock market beat, but the man worthwhile is the man who can smile when his shorts aren't too tight in the seat.
Primetime Stock Watch is brought to you by 1-800-DIVORCE. When you need to take stock of your rights, 1-800-DIVORCE is on your side. Call 1-800-DIVORCE today.
Well, we're nothing if not consistent, even when the cat's away, the mice still play behind the clock, as we had a segment just too compelling to give up on. But right now, we got to toss over to Will Ortner, who's got the stock watch.
Something my mom always told me was, defense wins ball games, offense sells tickets. So, you gotta play great defense in order to win games, and I want to win games. So, I'll take a block off the backboard over a dunk any day of the week.
That is Blazers' first-round draft pick, Donovan Clingan. He was meeting with media, getting training down in Portland. Buy or sell, Kling Kong will be an essential part of the Blazers' return to the playoffs whenever that may be.
Yeah, because, it appears that they are making him. He's the future. It's not DeAndre Ayton. I don't think Ayton's going to be here after another year or two.
Although Chauncey did say after he saw Klingan shoot in the workout, maybe they could both play together. I don't know about that.
Ayton's not long for here. I don't believe it. In fact, I bet if Ayton comes out and has if he plays the way he did in the second half of the season, in the first half, he's gone to the trade deadline. I believe.
I think you're right.
So I think you drafted Klingan to be the future. God, return to glory. Who knows how? They are so far and away from being relevant.
That's the question you have to answer: is how far away are we from that? If it's 5 years, he's a part of it. If it's 10 years, he's not.
They are light years away from being contenders. But if this version hits, Scoot, Sharp, then yeah, they'll be back in it. Maybe they suck this year and they get Cooper Flag, and then you go from there. But yes, I believe that Klingan will be a big part of whatever version of this Blazers we have over the next 5 years, and hopefully that is at least a somewhat contending team. So I'll buy it, even though it kind of scares me that you're drafting a heavy-footed back-to-the-basket center in today's game.
I'm going to sell it, not because I don't think he would be a part of that team. I just think it's going to take too long to be that team again. And I don't know, but I feel like the West is way tougher to navigate your way through than the East is, and way easier to have a big jump from average to good to playoff team. And it may take a while to get back there. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's sooner. I think it may take longer than he's here for.
Paul George makes the Sixers today significantly better. Maxey, Embiid, Sixers. That's the best Sixers team in a long time. That's a team that can get to the final.
That is Colin Cowherd on his daily hot girl walk. He released that with the volume.
I was wondering why we were getting leaf blowers.
What?
Him and Simmons are on this hot girl walk where they walk around and then they do their I love this player, I love this trade.
Should I do that when my giant dog every morning's taking a steamer? Should I do the
in the background? Yes.
The cod dump walk of the morning?
You do go on hot girl walks. I think you should.
That's the hot girl walk?
That's the hot girl walk.
No,
I think I just saw something fall from the ceiling.
Oh, that's terrifying. Buy or sell?
Outside the studio.
Oh, I was going to say, now I'm like, dude, if there's a spider coming down,
No.
The snakes
something
are back.
white fell from the ceiling in the office.
You can't say that, look above my head, and now I'm like, what the?
No, you're good. You're good, big man.
The snakes are back. Buy or sell? PG3 will lead the 76ers with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey to an NBA title.
So Paul George is, 33? And we'll talk about this, but this was me and Buck were talking before the show, and NBA free agency, largely we've come to, I think, figured out that NFL free agency is way overblown, and that most of the time when you hit the free agent market, there's a reason why. You're not elite, and your team doesn't want to pay you like an elite guy. The NBA is not much different. I love Paul George. Paul George is a great player, but can I ask anyone, what did Paul George do in Indiana? What did Paul George do in Oklahoma City? What did Paul George do in with the Clippers?
Got some buckets, got some numbers.
He has not led anyone to do jack you know what. And so now at 33 years old, with Embiid, who will get hurt again because that's what he does, and now I'm expected to believe that he's going to go to Philadelphia and he's going to be the piece that puts him over. I love Paul George. I think he's a great player. But at some point, Paul George has meant nothing to the teams where he's been at, and I'm not buying that he's going to mean some sort of great windfall for the Sixers. That's a pass for me.
Yeah, I'll sell it as well. We haven't seen him be a difference maker for anybody. We've seen him be a talented basketball player. We've seen him have huge games, but between health and never really carrying a team on his own, or being that guy, being the Batman for his squad, I don't know why I'm expecting him to be Robin now for Joel Embiid. I saw somebody put out a "Who's stopping this squad" with with the three of them, and then I saw somebody else just reply, "Head, shoulders, knees, and toes is stopping this this squad."
Well, that in Boston,
yeah.
Philly on paper has a good roster, but again, we'll see what happens, because maybe Paul George can win being the third best player, but that Clippers team they were on was pretty damn good, and last time I checked, they won nothing.
Out to right field, blistered back by the wall, and it bangs off the fence. Rounding's coming home. Jorge Polanco, the former Twin, ties it in the bottom of the seventh inning.
That was Jorge Polanco tying it up yesterday. That's from Root Sports Northwest. Goldie on the call. Unfortunately, the Mariners would go on to lose that. With today's win for the Astros, the Mariners, who were up 10 games just 2 weeks ago in the division, are only up 3 games.
Oh no.
Buy or sell, they will make the playoffs.
Ooh. Well, by the way, they got 3 coming up with arguably the best team in baseball. Just saying. Orioles.
And I read a stat earlier today from a Mariners fan that said that no team with a 10-game lead in June had ever not made the playoffs in the current format, and they said so naturally the Mariners will be the first to do that. I'm worried about this team. I thought that they were kind of getting by on, I don't know if you want to call it smoke and mirrors, but without a ton of real productivity and talent. Their pitching has been so flippin' good, it has masked a lot of other issues for them. They don't have an offense. They do not have an offense. And so in a game that favors the teams who can really club the baseball, I have a hard time seeing how when we get to playoff time, they're a part of that conversation.
I would like to believe that old 54%er there, Jerry, would figure out, go get a bat. Like, for the love of God, go get 2. Like, just do it. I mean, if you get a bat or 2, there's no reason you can't be in this. Like last year, razor thin margin, right? So yes, the pitching was bound to come back down to earth, but it's still the best pitching staff in baseball. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Mariners staff they've
been great.
It's been
unbelievable,
filthy. And their run differential is 6. Like 6.
Yeah, that's what makes me think not a playoff team.
The Astros have a plus 35. Like, what are you doing? But still, with the expanded wild card, I think this is a playoff team. I do. I think they're going to go out and get a bat or 2. I don't know if they're going to go out and make a big swinge, but I know. I am certainly concerned. I'm going to try to view it as a glass half full and think with that pitching staff, that's good enough to get over the hump into the wild card if Houston doesn't chase you down. By the way, that's not a given either that Houston is automatically going to run you down.
No, they've kind of been a mess at times.
Yeah, this is going to be a battle right until the end, but they're red hot right now. They won 9-10.
That is your Stock Watch, brought to you every week by Goldberg & Jones Divorce for Men. You can, of course, visit them or give them a call at 1-800-DIVORCE. In the news is coming up next, a concerning case of was that free or was that stolen? We'll explain. Coming up next, here's Ortner with SportsCenter.
Now.
Just got back from there. We'll regale some of his tales coming up later in the club. But without further ado, right now it is Monday, July 1st, and it is time for In the News. It's one of those days on the calendar, Jason, that I feel like sometimes we get the National Day days, and there's a bazillion of them.
Sure.
July 1st kind of sucks.
Nothing good?
National Ginger Snap Day.
Oh, what are we, 1,000 years old? Was that National Ribbon Candy Day as well?
Speaking of being 1,000 years old, National Postage Stamp Day.
Oh, all right, well.
I guess some people are into collecting those.
I bought stamps, I want to say like 3 years ago. I bought a book of them, and I still have like 4.
Most.
Like every now and then I'll be like going through my desk, and I'm like, oh yeah, I still have stamps. Every now and then I guess you still need to mail something, but I honestly feel like that book of stamps has lasted me several years.
It's also National Postal Worker Day. To the blonde gal that carries mail on foot in my neighborhood, you do a great job. To the dudes who tromp across the lawn, not so much. Don't do that anymore.
For the record, I love the Postal Service.
Yeah.
I love my FedEx drivers. I love my UPS drivers, my DHL, the postal workers. You're doing God's work out there. And
sun, sleet, or snow, what's their whole thing?
Yeah, no rain nor sleet nor snow. And look, I don't even care that if you follow that sort of creed. If you, right by my my gym that I go to, it's like in a warehouse by a postal sorting center. If you've ever seen what those people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, the fact that you get your mail at all, thank your lucky stars. I'm telling you, that thing is Thunderdome. Whenever I park and I'm walking into class, I just, it seems like the most disorganized just pile of mess, and yet it gets to you. Like at an alarmingly high rate.
It's true. It's one of the things that people take completely for granted.
Yes. I'm not saying that it's 100%, but I can't tell you the last time that I mailed something or shipped something and it didn't come.
Yeah.
It didn't. Maybe it got lost for a day or two, but it gets there.
I'm with you.
And I'm telling you, everything that goes into getting you that package, those people, freaking awesome. I love you.
Good day for the folks at Salt and Straw and Ben & Jerry's because it's also National Creative Ice Cream Flavor Day.
Oh.
So, that'll work.
I like to stick to my standards, though. I don't need anything. Give me some pralines and cream. Give me a nice, like a cheesecake. Maybe a chocolate chip, cookie dough sort of thing. I don't need like these super fancy, out of the world flavors. Give me meat and potatoes. Give me the missionary of ice cream, and you're going to be just fine.
I don't think you want that ice cream.
Well, with the 4th of July this weekend, we're getting the first major summer heat wave. Apparently, we are going to have temperatures between 95 and 100 from Vancouver all the way to Eugene, Friday through Monday this week.
Yeah, that's hot.
That's
hot. That's Africa hot. That's crotch pot cooking hot.
It's not Vegas hot, though. I'll tell you that right now.
How hot was it when you were there?
110 when I was on the golf course.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was a dry heat, right?
Of course.
I was sweaty.
So it also says that there will be an excessive heat watch going on down in southern Oregon when they expect temperatures to reach up to 110 degrees.
Woo, doggy.
So careful there. Also, they have gone on and decided to go ahead and raise the minimum wage here in Oregon. Now, I did not realize that there were 3 different minimum wages. Did you know this?
I did not. What are we? Because like the servers get.
So the first is there's the Portland Metro.
Yeah.
And the minimum wage goes from. It's going up 50 cents everywhere. So it's going from $15.45 an hour to $15.95 an hour in Portland Metro. Standard rate goes from $14.20 to $14.70, and the non-urban rate, which I was that people who work on farms? I don't know. $13.20 to $13.70. So
yeah, this is one of those that I just choose to stay out of because I'm a moron. I don't own a business. I just know that stuff's way more complicated than. Is this, everyone should have a livable wage, but then when you pay fast food workers $22 an hour, and that gets but minimum wage isn't enough to even like have a life, and it's just there's a lot that goes into that, and I wish everyone the best, and everyone deserves a livable wage, and that's above my pay grade and economic understanding to figure all of that out.
A little bit of a hullabaloo going on in Northwest Portland over the weekend. Have you heard about the free versus stolen furniture at the Furniture Warehouse?
No. What, people are stealing?
Well, so apparently
now?
there was a warehouse with a bunch of furniture, and someone put up a plywood sign in front of it that said free, and people started going in droves and just taking out boxes. And so sure enough, the police got involved. They did they found the person, they said put up the sign, a 51-year-old male, and but apparently there were enough boxes taken that they can't really do anything to implicate the other people because of the fact that they believed it was charitable items, not stolen items.
That's too old to be messing with people saying, "Oh, look, it's free." That should be like a 22-year-old.
Yeah,
who
police.
wrote that sign.
That dude's an ass. And
Yes.
second, really,
Yeah, you would know.
you really thought that
But they're
they're
operating under this blanket of, oh, I saw it was free, so you can't do anything to me.
This is why people suck.
Yes,
you
it
know
is.
good and damn well. There wasn't one person, well, maybe one, because people are morons. There wasn't two people that thought that was really free. You just thought it was an opportunity to take some stuff, and you're like, oh, it says free, therefore for it. It's like you're the person that goes into a store and something that should be $1,000, is actually labeled $1. Like there's a
guy getting a great deal.
It's like, oh, it's $1.
No, you're not. It's mismarked.
Yeah, I saw someone once at a Target do that. I was buying a backpack for my kid, and someone had mislabeled. I forget what it was, but I think it was supposed to be $116, and someone on the thing it was 16, and they were just adamant. They were causing a ruckus, and those sons of bitches, they gave it to him for $16.
That's why they did it.
They raised an absolute fit, and I think the people at Target got so tired of listening to this loser bitch and moan, they gave it to him for $16. I so bad wanted those Target people to be like, dude, get the F out of our store. Just leave. It's not $16. You're the same people that are taking the furniture.
Yeah, there were neighbors nearby that said that there were people in back saying, "Oh yeah, just go ahead and take whatever you want," and so people were listening, or at least people were going along with it because it fit their own narrative.
Exactly, it goes along because it fits their narrative. The thing that humans do better than anything else is lie to ourselves. So it's like, hey, it said it was free. No, someone said I can just take it. So. Quick, load up, get everything you can, because that's something that happens a lot. Often when I roll up to a serious furniture store and they just have a bunch of stuff that says free, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to ask any questions. Load up the van.
Officers received reports of a burglary at the building and arrived to find someone had forced themselves in. There was a crowd of people inside. They said one of the witnesses told officers they thought it was a liquidation and the inventory was free. Well, we will try to ignore or at least move past this coming up next, because we have to tell you what's happening with the Boeing supplier right here in Portland after the whole door issue. Also, we'll design the next Burnside Bridge. That's coming up next on In the News on 1080 The Fan.
This is the
Couple more stories to get to before we get to the hot 5 at 5. The supplier for Boeing that led to the disaster over Portland, the door plug and all that, has been purchased by Boeing.
Hey,
I start to wonder if this is a good thing. It says that Boeing previously owned this company called Spirit Aerosystems, that's different than Spirit Airlines, and that the purchase would reverse a longtime Boeing strategy of outsourcing its key work on its passenger planes. So I kind of like that because you're taking the best, at least you're getting the best bids. There's a competition for your business. Now it's all going back in-house, essentially, when they purchase this, which makes me more concerned.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I'm sure they are saying it's for safety and quality control,
yeah,
but
it sounds like everything I've read is over the last 10 years, Boeing has specifically said we don't care about safety or quality control. So now it's going to be back under the watchful eye of Boeing. Yeah, I'm not certain if that's a good thing, and yet this is another one of those that it really doesn't matter because you have two choices to fly. You either fly on Airbus or you fly on Boeing. And if you're only flying on Airbus, believe me, I look, and the vast majority of flights leaving out of PDX, yeah, those are on Boeing. So I don't know what you want to do. Like, this is one of those where every time I go up in an airplane, I just like, oh man, I hope to God like someone knew what the hell they were doing when they were putting the engine together. It's still a really safe way to fly. It just is terrifying when you have like Boeing employees that are like, yeah, I wouldn't get on one of those. And yet, when you're going on vacation, like Will's going to Vegas, he's not like, you know what, screw Boeing, I'm going to drive.
You're like, I'm on whatever plane I'm on.
I kissed the plane and we made it fine. Okay. Never had an issue. Just kiss the plane before you get in.
I'm being dead serious. How many planes would have to crash? An entire plane loads of people died because Boeing killed 2 plane loads of people. 2. Like several hundred people dead. And collectively we went, meh.
Jordan got mad.
I still got to get there.
Yeah, Schultze got a little pissed.
Did he stop flying?
No, he didn't stop flying.
Of course not.
I'm dead serious. I wonder how many planes would have to go down in a year. Like in a year, if you had 3 Boeing planes full of 250 passengers each, 3 in a year. So we'll space it out, you got a couple months in between. Like, and by the way, not international flights or like that you don't think about. No. Like Portland to Vegas and then LAX to New Orleans and like Miami to New York. All down. Boom. Gone. Everyone dead. But at the same time, Boeing's like, hey, we get it. So the airlines are like, we're lowering prices 30%. I think everyone's like, well, it's 30%. I'm getting on this airplane. I got to get to this wedding. I'm dead serious.
We value convenience too much as a society for it to affect our want to get on those things.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think the number is greater than 3, maybe 5, 6.
I don't know. I mean, and for some people, I think the number would be a lot higher because what you would do is you would just take the total number of flights, you look at a percentage, and you're like, I like my odds, and you keep going.
This is also probably the worst way to say this, but if they just had a crash, isn't that the best time?
I always say that. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's got to be safe now. There's no way they're having 2
They
of these
wouldn't
in a row.
crash 2 in a row.
That's
No,
what
they
I'm
would
saying.
never.
Like maybe if we strung a couple together. Like maybe it's bad if we had 3 spaced out over a year, but if you had 3 over like 3 months, you'd be like, whoa.
But
then like
it would
6
have to
months
be
later,
the
be
same
like,
spots.
yeah, people are like, hey, it's been 6 months. We're fine. Those 3, that's in the past.
All right, we need to span what I think are uncharted waters here on In the News and Primetime. Have we ever designed a bridge as a show before?
Not that I know of.
Well, the Multnomah County wants you to know that they want your opinions on what the new Burnside Bridge should look like. It is going to be the first seismically resilient crossing of the river that Portland has. They're essentially preparing for the big one. And it'll also include a 17-foot wide bicycle and pedestrian path on each side of the bridge.
Of course it will.
That part is nice, but there are various design elements, I should say, that you can vote on online, and we're going to take that survey right now.
Let's do it.
Would you prefer a cable stay bridge or a tied arch bridge?
Boy, I'm going to need to know what I kind of think the like, are we thinking like Golden Gate? Like that's the like where they're high and then they come down low?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe, sure.
Yeah, that's a cooler looking bridge in my opinion.
I'd like cables.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the cables.
We'll go
I
with
don't want to cut the cord.
We'll go with cable stay. Next question. What impacted your oh, well, no, we're not going to be able to do that. They're like, what impacted your decision on the cable stay? We like
the cable stay bridge is like they did one of the new Bay Area bridge in San Francisco is one of these.
We'll say uniqueness.
The cable stay bridge just looks cool. I think it looks more modern. Cool. It's classy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
like
see.
where we're going with that.
Out. The cable stay has multiple sub options. Please place the sub option below and order the preference of most preferred from least to least preferred. So here are kind of some of your options here. They look nice and pointy. This is wonderful radios. I'm leaning over showing Sook some. We have to pick a 1, 2, or 3. So I'm going to go with
3.
That
Pointy.
3 is called the inverted Y tower.
Yeah,
That's what we're going to do.
Y. I'm with like the pointier the better. I like the big. We need high arcing like things that
High-arcing
are
points.
the grandioso. The St. John's Bridge looks tease because
it does look awesome.
I don't even know which one that one
The
is.
St. John's Bridge. It's the coolest looking bridge we got in
I'm horrible with geography.
Well, just like that, without knowing anything, we have lobbied our own feedback,
Boom.
and now the city of Portland, or at least Multnomah County, knows what we want that bridge to look
I
like.
love that we're taking public surveys.
Yeah.
How about just build it without it costing $9 billion?
Well,
Yeah,
what is
how
it
about
going to
you-
be named?
Yep. What's that?
What is it going to be named?
I think it's just the
Burnside.
new Burnside Bridge.
Yeah, you can't go around like the
Bridgie
Hawthorne.
McBridge face?
The Hawthorne Bridge is the Hawthorne Bridge. How confusing would it be if all of a sudden you're like, hey, I got to take the Burnside Bridge. Where is that? Oh, that's over on Royal. No, the Burnside Bridge is the Burnside Bridge. The St.
It's
John
gotta have
Bridge is
another
in St.
name.
John's.
Could have another name.
That is all the time we have for In the News. The hot 5 at 5 is coming up next, right here on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Dusty. Craving something refreshing? Swing by
Rob is out gallivanting in Las Vegas. We'll get him back on Friday, I do believe.
I like this Vancouver Ford text line. Can we start leasing out the name of the bridges to corporations like we do for stadiums?
Ooh.
There we go. That's more like it. Like, we're going to take you you don't want to go to the Chick-fil-A bridge. The traffic on that is a nightmare. What we want to do is head over to the Popeyes. The Popeyes is start doing that. Like, we're looking for ways to cut corners. Hey, everything in college football is for sale. Like, literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can sponsor anything. Why don't we start doing that in cities?
I don't hate it. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Like the express lane, you could have that be the FedEx lane. Like because what do they call it?
Oh, yeah.
Is it like the the HOV, right? Is it
the only problem is
occupancy vehicles?
Yeah, that's right.
It needs to be the FedEx lane. Throw the FedEx logo on there and let's zip around town.
I like that. The only thing is, like, when we're doing this with like the colleges and we know that money is going to pay the players, I just don't have confidence that when they collect that money that it'll go to anything positive for our city.
Well, probably not.
But at least we can try.
We can try. At least it's money that's not coming out of our pockets. Like, how much is this new Burnside Bridge going to cost?
That's a good question that we did not get to an answer for.
It'll be an ton of money, and no one will figure out why it costs that much. But then they'll be like, well, we got to raise taxes, or here's some sort of new bond that we're on the hook for. And shut up, we're going to build this bridge. It's going to be $3 billion, and don't you dare ask why it's that expensive.
That's exactly right.
Well, that I-5 bridge went from, suppose at one point I think it was going to be like $3 billion, and then for seemingly unknown reasons, it's now up to like 7.5 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And that no one can give me a definitive answer. Every time I ask anyone, they're like, "Oh, this is what it costs."
You just start with a total and you add until it gets done, and people are like, "Yeah,
it is what it is." The Ram Stadium, right in downtown Los Angeles, that thing started out as like 3.5 and ended up being like $6 billion. How are you over budget by several $billion?
Inflation.
I'm fascinated by that. Like, I get being over budget, but over budget by $2-3 billion? I'm gonna need an explanation.
Sure, why not?
It's like when you get a hospital bill, you're like, can I take a look at that? Which, by the way, if you do have surgery, call on your hospital bill because they'll start taking stuff off.
Yes, they will.
Isn't that the most amazing thing? You can get a surgery and you'll get a bill for like $7,000, like your portion of it. And you can call the hospital and be like, yeah, I don't want to pay $7,000. I don't think I should. And you can start going down the itemized list and they're like, yeah, that's not right.
After my wife's...
And they'll just start chopping stuff. They're like, what sort of shady, Ponzi scheme are you running there at the hospital when you're charging me for things that all I have to do is call and say, I don't want to pay for that? And you're like, yeah, you shouldn't have to pay for that.
There are certain... There's way too much... Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. We didn't mean to include that. Like, it seems... like this intentional accident every time that something got left on that shouldn't have been. Oh, I didn't know. Sorry, didn't see you there. Yeah. Like pregnancy bills from the hospital afterwards. There were a couple things my wife was like, I thought this was covered. Yeah, and they're like, oh yeah. Sorry, we'll take that off. Like, how many people are just getting fleeced because they don't know any better?
Exactly. So I think that's the way bridges get built. Someone's like, how much is this bridge going to cost? They're like, it's going to be $1.5 billion. And then when it comes time to build, they're like, yeah, that's going to be more like $3 billion. And someone in the city's like, okay, it's $3 billion. I'm fine with me.
We're all betting men here on this show. Text line wants to know, what are the odds that Rob makes it back for Friday's show?
It's a good question. It depends on whether or not he's leaving Friday morning or Thursday night. See,
that's true.
Rob does a dangerous game, and I think he does it on purpose. It's like his own version of show roulette.
Yeah.
If he's supposed to work on Friday, he leaves
on Friday, and if I get bumped, nothing I can do.
He's master of that. And I'm always like, you could just leave Thursday. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So, look, I'm going to say holiday, but he's been down there for a while. Carry the one, do some math. I'm gonna put it 60-40, maybe 65. He shows up. I think he'll be here.
Because I will also say there's not a lot easier than the 1-day work week. So
no, and he's fine. It'll be the day after the 4th of July. No one will be working. No one's watching. No one's listening. Yeah, 65. Outside chance 70.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're. But it's certainly not a sure thing. Okay,
I'm with you.
That's not there. There is no guarantees that he's here on Friday, but we think. He'll be here.
Did he go down there over the weekend? Or did he leave today?
No. He's been down there all weekend. He left Friday right after the show.
Yeah. That's a long Vegas trip. I thought 4 days was a lot.
Let me just tell you, Ordner, Rob does not Vegas the way that you Vegas.
No,
I promise
you. You got 25-year-old Vegas. You got to get like 48-year-old Vegas. Rob's just at the pool, and he's there with his kid.
He's hanging out, eating delicious meals,
Yeah,
not really getting tanked or staying up till 4 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's a different kind of Vegas. He'll be all right.
Without further ado, it's time for the Hot 5 at 5.
Hot topics, hot opinions,
Oh, golly, I'm hot today.
and hot air. It's time for the Hot 5 at 5.
It's hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 on Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
No, I mean it. That's very hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you on The Fan by Victorico's Mexican Food, the most popular burrito spot in Oregon. Online at victoricos.com. Number 5.
Right now, over my shoulder, they're talking about the free versus stolen furniture sale going on.
Oh, there it is.
Number 5, the Rocket Mortgage Classic at a corkscrew in a little golf. I don't know if you saw the end of this tournament. It got a little bit wild. Akshay Bhatia was leading basically the entire time.
Yeah, he jumped it.
And how? So he was chasing Cam Davis, who ended up winning the tournament. Cam Davis accidentally snapped his driver shaft after his drive on 18. So if Bhatia can just force a playoff and par the hole, he's facing a guy in the playoff that doesn't have a driver. Bhatia, through 71 holes of the tournament, has not three-putted once. And what does he do?
You know what's coming.
He goes in 3 putts. He lips out a 4 or 5 footer.
Yeah.
That's that. Cam Davis is your winner. Pretty good drama down the stretch at the Rocket Mortgage.
It's funny that I only pay attention to like the Rocket Mortgage, whatever, when something like terrible happens.
Sure.
I saw that this morning and it was like, ooh.
Yeah.
But I guess this kid's a young and up and coming, and it'll be fine.
Talking a little more soccer in this show. Doesn't happen often, but Copa America continues tonight. We talked about the England coach who had his job saved on a bicycle kick in stoppage time. The United States head coach Greg Berhalter may also need some sort of miracle like that. Unfortunately, they play Uruguay. They're currently tied with Panama in the group, but Panama still has an opportunity to beat them out on tiebreakers. And the U.S. playing their toughest match tonight. Both of them start at 6, USA versus Uruguay, as well as Bolivia, Peru.
Yeah, so basically, if they don't win tonight,
they could technically draw, but if you're assuming that Panama goes and wins against the worst team in the group,
they need a win.
You're hoops. You need a win.
They need a win.
And it's maybe unlikely they get it. So hoping that they are able to move to the knockout stage, though not expected of that. Also, MLS star Evander gets his first All-Star nod representing the Timbers in the MLS All-Star game.
You know he's an All-Star because he has one name.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a boss move.
Kind of like you, just souk.
Yeah, when soccer players go full boss. Like the only Ichiro's got that. I think Otani a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a boss move when you go Prince, Madonna.
Even like Magic. You know, I mean, I know he was Magic Johnson, but he was just kind of Magic.
It's boss move when you just got one name.
How about a little football news? Utah naming Morgan Scalley their head coach in waiting. Now, funny thing, he had been their head coach in waiting before. And then there was an investigation after he used a racial slur in a text message.
Yeah, he liked to use the N-word in some text messages.
So they stripped that coach in waiting from him, but now have decided he is, in fact, the guy who will take over the program when Kyle Whittingham steps down. Whittingham has said before he doesn't really want to go past 65, and he's 65 now. So how long do you think that'll be?
He softened on that a little bit because he made a hardline stance a couple years ago and said, "I'm not
coaching." That dude's in great shape, by the way.
Yeah, he's not your average 65. He softened on it, but my guess is, you move into the Big 12, 2 more years tops. Whittingham is not going to coach till he's 70.
No.
I mean, so I think you've got another, I'd say solid 2 years, outside chance 3, but Whittingham's done very, very soon. And Scalley is a very, very well thought of coordinator.
A little later this week, we'll get into really what defines success for coaches. As we determined earlier, only 16 teams can win it all, at least this year. Number 2, though, the Celtics are for sale just 22 years after they were sold for $360 million. Their owner, led by Wick Grusbeck, is willing to sell the team. They've been valued at $4.7 billion. You could probably get $5 billion.
They're getting.
You would get 14 times your investment if you sold it at that much.
There ain't no way he's selling that thing for $4 billion.
What do you think, 6?
The Phoenix Suns, for God's sake, sold for $4 billion.
So what do we think, 50% more for the Celtics?
I'll bet you this is north of 6.
Yeah, I think 6 is it doesn't go below
And
line.
he doesn't need to sell it.
Nope.
He's basically saying that he doesn't want to deal with having to pass it on to his wiener kids. Like, he just, give me my money and let me enjoy, because he's still a fairly young man. I think he's like 62, 63.
Yeah.
Dude, this is like, this is very expensive to run. We just won a title. We're as valuable. Just give me my $6.5 bill and we'll walk away. But yeah, they're not. If the Suns are for 4, the Celtics,
the most storied franchise besides the Lakers, maybe in all of basketball,
6+ easy.
They could be a $7 billion franchise.
Yes.
Number 1, NBA free agency is upon us. Tons of deals going down today. You've got Paul George going to the Sixers, Klay Thompson going to the Dallas Mavericks.
Can I just say real quick that I understand that Klay Thompson is the second biggest name behind Paul George, should be the first biggest, but do we not all realize that Klay Thompson isn't any good anymore?
He's washed. He has nothing to move the needle.
I saw so many talking heads today, like saying that, that now that he's in Dallas, and what are the Lakers going to do now that Klay Thompson isn't on the board? I'm like, if Klay Thompson is the answer to your problems, let me just say this: you don't have an answer. You just have more questions.
The Shack of Troutdale.
Yes.
Getting a new deal. That, of course, Drew Eubanks going to the Utah Jazz. He's going to get $10 million a year. Also, Chris Paul goes to the San Antonio Spurs to pair up with Wemby. There's a handful of other deals. We also saw Jason Tatum sign his max extension.
Hey-o.
Woo boy. 5 years, $314 million. He will make $71 million in the final year of his contract.
Well, Derek White got $125 million to stay in Boston. They're now above the second apron, so they're really expensive. The other one that I thought was adorable was Tobias Harris in the most Pistons move ever. Tobias Harris, who has more garbage stats that mean nothing than maybe any player in the NBA. Dude, that guy just keeps getting paid. Dude, they gave him $52 million to go put up meaningless points in that crappy Detroit Pistons offense.
Yep. One of the other ones that I saw was Isaiah Hartenstein going to that seems like one of the more underrated moves.
Oklahoma City, I'm telling you, they are, for the next 10 years, Oklahoma City is going to be a finals contender every single year.
So people pointing out that they have now acquired Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein without giving up a rotation player or a first-round pick.
No.
And it seems like the Clippers are going the wrong direction, and they have their first-round picks for the next 3 or 4 years. So
wait until they end up with Cooper Flag. Mark my word, they will end up like there's those 3 guys, but it's like what, Ace Bailey, Cooper Flag, and who's the other cat?
Yeah, there's a third in there.
Is it Harper? I think
you're right.
It might be Ron Harper's kid.
I think you're right.
There's like 3 guys that people are saying like in any draft they would be the number 1. Oklahoma City is going to end up with one of those kids. They just are. Or they'll take that and they'll turn it into, they'll make a deal and like Giannis will be playing in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Dude, their future is so freaking bright. It's ridiculous.
If you don't fumble it, you should have a great chance.
Yes.
That is your Hot 5 at 5, brought to you by Victorico's Mexican Food, home of the best burrito in Oregon. You can, of course, visit them at victoricos.com. Suki, you started scratching at the surface of something. We're parading around all these free agent signings as if they are huge movers of the needle and big things that are going to impact the landscape of the NBA this upcoming season. Is that actually the case? We'll discuss next. It is 5:17 on The Fan.
The Blazers.
Most misheard song lyric in music history.
It feels like it. It really does. We were talking free agent signings earlier. Isaiah Hartenstein of the Knicks going over to the Thunder. His former teammate now, Josh Hart, tweeting today, "You are dead to me, Zay. I never liked you anyways, but congrats on the bag."
I do so love when friends, lean into that stuff. Because then everyone, I actually saw some people today that were like, classless move by Josh Hart.
Come
You're
on.
like, give me a break.
Yeah, they're boys.
You got to lean into those sort of things. I got a good buddy of mine that I had a dinner with the other day, and he's a military guy. And he was involved in like the whole burn pits thing over there in Iraq.
Okay.
And dude, I lean in hard into that he deserves whatever is coming his way. No matter what he has going on, I'm like, shut up, I'll send you back to the burn pits. And we're eating dinner. He goes, you realize one time, he goes, I'm going to get cancer. And I was like, you understand that when that happens, I'm going to have to keep leaning into it. And he goes, yeah, I know. There is going to come
as long as you remain consistent.
There is going to come such an awkward day when he calls me to tell me that he gets cancer, and I'm going to have to be like, and you deserve it.
Yeah, and you better keep joking.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, yeah, just so you know, like that's God told me that that's what you deserve. So yeah, you got to lean into those sorts of things. That's what friends do. And I thought that was a great tweet by Josh Hart. I didn't like you anyways. So but, hey, good work on the money.
Yeah.
By the way,
you got a bag.
That's a good chunk of change. Mm-hmm. Like I will never fault someone for leaving for taking more money.
Yep.
You can say that, how much money is enough, but it's easy to say when it's not your money.
Mm-hmm.
But Oklahoma taxes versus New York taxes, and it was a significant more amount of money. And by the way, it's like he took more money to go to a bum team. He took money to go to
a contender.
A contender.
Another contender.
Well, yeah, New York's a contender, but look, if I'm buying futures, I'm taking Oklahoma City over New York.
Yep.
Although the East may be a little bit easier path to get to, but dude, good for him. It's a nice little chunk of change to go in there. And you look at what Oklahoma City's rolling out. If I'm buying futures the next 10 years, there's not a team in the NBA that I'm taking ahead of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And by the way, kudos to Rob. He said this years ago. We were talking like, whose future would you take? Would you take Portland's? You take Oklahoma City's? Remember that when it was a debate? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take Oklahoma.
Well, there have been
Oklahoma Cities.
A number of blockbuster. Well, I say blockbuster moves, and this is really the conversation I want to have because there are some big names that are changing teams. Names that have been big in the NBA for the better part of a decade, in some cases longer than a decade. See Klay Thompson, but in free agency, how much are these free agents really moving the needle? I, like you, think that Hartenstein is actually a really good move and a big move for OKC.
Sure.
That means something to them, but you talk about a Paul George going to Philly. You talk about a Klay Thompson going to Dallas. Are these free agency moves that we should be celebrating or that should garner as much attention as they're getting? Or because I feel like we're in a place where we have to report them and talk about them because of the names, but realistically, what are these stars contributing to their new teams that are going to help make the difference for them?
I am convinced that I've been saying this for years in the NFL, which is where I focus most of my attention. Like what I follow on a day-to-day basis. Like I follow the NBA closer, or excuse me, the NFL closer than I do anything. I'm an NFL, college football, and then probably the NHL. And, we pay attention to the NBA because obviously the Blazers, but, I'm not Danny. Like Danny lives and breathes the stuff. But every year in the NFL, I roll my eyes with free agents. Free agency is just the land of, I don't want to pay. It's basically, free agency is like, hey, we like a player and we like him at $6 million a year, but he is not worth $14 million. And then some other team that isn't very good being like, we'll pay you $14 million. And then that guy ends up not being very good at his new team. I mean, that's free agency. Yeah. Very rarely does it work out. And the NBA is exactly the same thing. Like most of the time, especially now under the new CBA, you can negotiate with your own free agents before you ever get to free agency.
Right.
So guys like OG that re-signed in New York. So, like, unless it's a situation like with Oklahoma City and New York, New York just couldn't afford him.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, they because of the other guys they committed to between them bringing Bridges over, between them signing OG, they couldn't afford a Hartenstein.
No. That's the only reason he's even available on the market. And lo and behold, that actually looks like a really good signing for Oklahoma City. But God, we do this every year in the NBA, and we talk about these needle movers, and they're not. First of all, Klay Thompson means nothing. Like nothing.
But it's interesting the game that's been played around him because one, we've heard that LeBron was willing to take a $20 million pay cut to get him, which, by the way, is one further reason you should not ever let LeBron be your GM or dictate
Golden
moves.
State, who was not a good team last year, they were not a playoff team.
Had to bench him.
And you're telling me that like we were trying to make this out as a national media that Klay Thompson was this when he went to Dallas, that he's the final piece in Dallas, and that
could be the piece that puts him over the edge.
And now that he's not in LA, that somehow the Lakers are screwed.
Yeah.
Like, are you like what?
Yeah.
In what world? And like the Paul George thing, like, oh, Philadelphia, this is a title. We said when Paul George went to Oklahoma City, when Paul George went to the Clippers, and Paul George is a really, really good player. Paul George has meant jack squat to any of the teams that he's been on. Never did anything in Indiana. Never did anything in Oklahoma City besides get waved off the court by Damian Lillard. Really did nothing in the Clippers. In fact, I feel bad for the Clippers because the Clippers for the last 15 years have done everything right. They have assembled 2 separate rosters full of really, really good players.
Yeah, you're not lying.
That Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, that was a really good team, and it went nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went and got Kawhi Leonard, and you got Paul George, you got a really good coach in Ty Lue, nice pieces around those guys. You added James Harden, and it led you nowhere.
Yeah.
And now you're sending Paul George at 33 years old to Philadelphia, and I'm supposed to believe that this version of Philadelphia, with Maxey, who's a nice player, with Embiid, who can never stay healthy, and Paul George, who's 33 and has never led his team anywhere, now I'm supposed to believe...
Why would that inspire any hope?
Yes, but we do this every year with free agency. We talk about it like as if these guys are needle movers, and much like the NFL, it's the same thing. Draft, develop, and occasionally you swing a big trade for a guy that truly is a difference maker.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to talk about LeBron in free agency or Shaq in free agency, that's fine. And that does happen once in a while when Kevin Durant in free agency decides that he wants to go. But you're talking about like once every like 5 to 6 years, maybe a generational player decides to flip teams, and that is a seismic shift.
Right.
But this stuff you saw today, none of it. This is all just kind of, for most teams, it's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yep.
It's a team willing to give someone money that another team isn't, and that should be all you need to know. Because if a guy is truly valuable, the OG Ananobis of the world, or the Siakams, or whoever else, if those guys really, Maxey in Philadelphia, when those guys become free agents, guess what? Their teams re-sign them.
Yeah.
Because they're difference makers.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now that we have this whole second apron thing, that some people were like, oh, is this going to be different? No, because Boston gave Derek White $128 million. And I'll tell you what, had someone else signed Derek White to $128 million, if he had gone to Indiana, guess what that would mean for Indiana? Nothing. It's just adding a nice solid piece to a decent team, and you would still get bounced by a more talented team.
Yep.
The Celtics or Milwaukee when they're healthy, or New York now, it just wouldn't matter. But Derek White re-signing in Boston, that's one of those
means more to them.
That means more to them.
That's like when the Warriors were able to re-sign Draymond. Like you wouldn't want to pay Draymond money for 26 other franchises out there, but it works for them. The interesting thing for me with the Klay Thompson one is that the money was actually, I mean, obviously you can get into taxes and Texas versus California. Money was actually better in Golden State initially. They were offering him 2 years, $48 million, and his agent told him that's not, you're worth more than that. They're lowballing you, and so.
But you're not.
But he's not, so he ends up signing with Dallas for 3 years, $50 million. You get $2 more million in total for an extra full year. That's not the better deal, but it's he needed a change of scenery.
Yeah, this sounds more like you just had hurt feelings,
and I think it was really hard for him to go from being the man to a physically broken person and not get back.
Well, realize that. Why isn't Pete Carroll the coach in Seattle? Why isn't Bill Belichick the coach in New England? Because both of those franchises said, you can't have control anymore. And both of those guys said, no, we'll take lesser roles. And the team looked at him and went, yeah, this isn't going to go well. It's really hard when you've been the guy to turn the page. It just is. And you can say what you want, Klay Thompson, and I thought he handled it pretty well with the whole benching thing.
I think he did overall, and I've had an opportunity to cover him pretty extensively from my time down in the Bay Area. One of the more open and authentic individuals, not very protected, guarded, cliche. Like, he'll tell you what he thinks about things, and he was really honest about how much it sucked to be on this decline for him this last year or two.
And it's one of the hard. Look how long it took Carmelo Anthony to figure that out, and Russell Westbrook, and some of these guys, and some never figured out Cam Newton. There's a lot of guys that just, I don't know what that's like. I can only imagine. I mean, Klay Thompson is phenomenal, and 4 titles. And the Splash Brothers, by the way, they should build a statue of those two guys. Maybe if you want to throw 3, there should be. I mean, that's 4 NBA titles. I mean, that's some rarefied air. And yet, to have it end like this, it kind of sucks. But all things end.
Yeah,
unless
you want to do the thing where you're. Frankly, you kind of do like go down the end of Kobe's career road where you keep all your stars happy for everything they did for you, and you do the extended farewell celebration thing.
Dwindle.
But people don't fans don't want that anymore. That's not what moves the needle for fan bases, and you kind of can't afford to do that. It's nice to pay your dues to your superstars, but you're gonna miss entire years now because of it. It doesn't add up. And then but you talk about the run that those guys had. They won 98 playoff games together. It was a hell of a run.
When you look at their titles, when you most of it is top 5, top 6 all time. When you talk about I think they're doing trios with Draymond, Clay, and because that's the core. But it's great. They went to 6 finals, right? Won 4 of them. Should have won 5.
Yep.
And the one that they
you could say they should have won all 6.
Well,
if injuries get one, but then if you don't get Draymond suspended against the Cavaliers, who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's greatness. But the Klay Thompson thing going to Dallas, that's not going to end well. Anyone in their twilight that takes these sort of deals to go chase a ring, it doesn't end well. Golden State benched him, and he'll end up having the same thing in Dallas where he'll get played off the floor. And it sucks, but at least he got, 50 mil?
Yeah, 3 years, 50 mil.
I also think, though, for Clay, if you look at the teams that are looking at him, the only reason for him to keep playing, it's not money, it's legacy, right? And between the 3 teams, Golden State, Lakers, and Mavericks, who wanted him, the Mavericks have the chance, if Luka can play the way he has been, if Kyrie can play like he did basically all the way up until the finals, you can realistically say, hey, maybe he's able to win another ring as like a 7th man off the bench.
He can be a nice bench piece on a really good team.
Right.
Yeah.
He helps. He becomes a 3-and-D guy, kind of. Really, he's there to, usher in the younger core that they have and help build those guys up. Maybe he can get a 5th, and that might be why he chose there. It's not about the money necessarily. It's how can I continue to improve my legacy as I play my last year or 2 in the league.
Well, we know that the Portland Trail Blazers have locked up Delano Banton, and that was huge for them. But want to get into your thoughts on what you think the Blazers should be doing in this free agency period, because I think a lot of people see him get a better draft pick, but you've got to do something and you've got to spend your money somewhere. So we'll start to get into that coming up next. First, Ortner has SportsCenter. the best.
I didn't think about it. I don't associate that with.
What's the other one?
moment
Pee Wee
you said
Herman.
that, I was like, oh yeah.
Is Pee Wee Herman the other one that people associate
Yeah,
with?
the tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think of the Sandlot.
Yeah, I would go Pee Wee, but
oh, Ortner.
The what?
He's never seen either.
Pee Wee, you shouldn't. I mean,
the Sandlot though is a classic.
I would think, but God, I bet you that thing is so old.
Probably doesn't hold up that well. Although it was set in like the 50s, 60s, so maybe it's like because it's a time period.
I think it stands up. I just don't know why Will at 20.
I missed it. It's too late. I can't watch it. Like it's like watching Star Wars. You got to watch it as a kid.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably
true. You didn't watch
true.
any of the Star Wars movies?
No, I did. I'm just saying, like when I meet people who don't, like Dusty. Dusty's a heathen who never watched Star Wars. It's not going to mean the same to Dusty.
His birthday is May the 4th be with you.
I know. He should be a big Star Wars guy, but he's not.
They did a whole thing there, right? Like movies that Will hasn't seen. They used to give you crap for that.
Yeah, I watched Goodfellas yesterday.
Oh, how'd you like it?
Really good.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, Goodfellas is great and stands up. But I like my kids don't watch a lot of movies.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah, I think a lot of. I mean, that's why I like the movie industry right now is under a lot of pressure. Like a younger generation, like we say, the kids don't go to baseball games anymore. Kids don't go to movies anymore. Like I go to movies a bunch, and I'll ask my kids all the time, like, "You want to go?" And they're always like, "Meh." Like I went and saw the new Kevin Costner movie Horizon.
Oh, how was it?
I loved it, but I really like Kevin Costner and I like westerns.
I will go see that.
But it's a 3-hour movie, and like you ask my kids, "Hey, you want to go watch 3 hours of Kevin Costner western?" And they're like,
And even me, I'm like, if it were 2 hours, maybe. I don't know if I want to do all three.
But I really like. I just think he makes a great western. I was a big Dances with Wolves fan. Open Range is wonderful, but it bombed. Like he put a bunch of his own money into that, and it like did squat. When I went and saw it, dude, there were like 3 people.
And isn't it? It's part of like a whole series or either
he's
trilogy
he's trying to make 4.
The second one comes out in like August.
Yeah, dude. That guy's gonna lose his ass on that. Like he put up like I want to say like $50 million of his own money. He ain't getting that back. But I'm here to tell you, if you like big sweeping westerns, and I do. Yeah, and that's one of those things I like. This is like an age gap thing. I just think there are certain movies that you should watch on the big screen. I get that it's way more convenient to watch at home, but like the last Top Gun that came out, I loved.
Yes.
Like that was
way
the
better on the big
definition of a wonderful summer popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, like, to me, watching that with a crowd of people that cheer and on a big IMAX screen, like that's worth it. Like Dune, like the Dune and Dune 2.
I've heard that about the Dune movies.
You should watch that.
I also feel that way about like any war movie, World War II, like Dunkirk, you know, like stuff like that. What was the 1917?
Yeah.
Those. They're so much better when experienced in the big grand way.
Like when the Fall Guy came out, the Ryan Gosling, I thought that was pretty good.
I didn't see that one.
I can see that at home.
Sure,
I can see Barbie or whatever at my house, and I don't care. But the movie's called Horizon, and it's this wonderfully shot, just huge epic western. Hey, give me the big screen.
Yeah,
I just wish there was more. I felt bad. Like I used to look around the theater. It was just me. It's like me, and I was when I'm the youngest person in the theater. That ain't good. I'm at that age where I should never be the youngest person there, and I was by probably 15 years. I was like, ooh, that's rough, Kevin. That's rough, buddy. I feel for you.
Movies were largely a place for us to go and fool
hook up.
around.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you could pick like House of Gucci at 10 o'clock. No one's gonna be in there. That can be just me and the lady.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of high schoolers whose first experience is at least our age and younger might have come in the movie theater. But I digress. I wanted to get back to this is kind of a 6 degrees of primetime here. Someone telling us on the text line, the Vancouver Ford text line last segment, that Isaiah Hartenstein's dad played at Oregon while they were there. And I was like, wait, hold on a second here. Isaiah Hartenstein's dad played at Oregon? Looked it up, and sure enough, the German Florian Hartenstein played there from 1997 to 2001. Isaiah was born in Eugene. The family then moved back to Germany, where his dad played professionally for many, many years. Isaiah obviously now back in the NBA, but I had zero idea that Isaiah or his dad had any Oregon connection.
No, and I want to say this in the nicest way possible. If you would have bet me that kid's dad was African American, I would have bet every dollar I had, dude. That guy is so white. He's a German and he is white.
Yes, he is.
I mean, he is, like you say, oh, that dude's from Germany. I'm like, yeah, never would have guessed in a million years.
when I
his
pulled
dad
it up,
was an African American basketball player at Oregon.
From his profile, I had his dad's name and only his name, and I typed it in, and I first thought, well, that can't be him.
No, you're like, you know,
it is jarring when you're like, and then you're like, how white was his mom?
Had to be like
translucent.
His mom, exactly. His mom had to be the Invisible Woman because, dude, that kid came out. Even like you see little photos of him, dude, that came out white. And I feel that way because I feel that with my son. I know it kind of bums my son out a little bit sometimes. People always ask like, I'm his stepdad. I'm like, no, I'm his dad. I'm his dad. Like his college roommate was kind of like this dumpy, dude, just this, you know, the kid's a yutz. But just like, you know, long stringy hair, just, you know, that just kind of dumpy doughboy kid. And whenever we go anywhere, people would be like, oh, that's your son. I'm like, no, the little Asian one. That one's mine. My guy had nothing to do with Tubby over here. Stop trying to put us together. You used to drive.
He's not mine. I'm not his.
To drive me. I'm not responsible for that. Knock it off. But yeah, it's you never judge. You can never judge the parents. You know, you just never know. But yeah, I had no idea that he was born in Eugene, and I guess they moved to. He's German because they moved there when he was young because his dad played overseas in Germany.
Well, Pride Month, Suk, is over, but that didn't stop one of the WNBA's finest from giving one of the better gifts I've seen in a while. That and a few, I guess, WNBA notes in the next segment. You're listening to Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
look, they said it, not me. I didn't think that at all. Bunch of filthy people out there. Although I was asking, is he allowed certain racial privileges? You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean like when speaking with teammates?
Just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
I was in a lot of locker rooms over the years, and a lot of words got thrown out that I knew, and I didn't want to say them, and I knew I couldn't say them. That dude is as white as I am. In fact, I think he's whiter than me. Is he allowed to say that and do the hey? It's like when Schultze's like, he's Native American, kinda, I guess, and so he like does the Native American thing, but again, whiter than I am. I don't know if he's had some awkward moments in locker rooms or if he just has to steer clear.
Well, and I'm wondering, like, you know, when we have, like, every February in the NBA, when they have Black History Month, does he sit down and look into a camera and do a vignette about, like, what Black History Month means to him?
I don't know.
I don't either.
It just makes me think, what is that? Have you ever, I forget the name of the movie. It's like School something or other. Have you seen the clip where Cat Williams, it might be the funniest clip. I'd play it, but we'd have to, like, blurb. Like every other word.
It would be unrecognizable.
Have you ever seen the clip where Cat Williams he's in prison and he's Tiffany Haddish?
Oh yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
She's his wife and she brings, just do me a favor, look up Cat Williams in prison on YouTube whenever you get home. He's in prison. He's been in prison for 16 years. It's the funniest 2 minutes in movie history. And his wife brings in his like teenage son, who, you know, looks like him, and then she brings in a white baby, and I mean a white baby, to tell him that it's his son. The 2-minute monologue that Cat Williams goes on is some of the greatest cinema comedy you will ever see.
School Dance is the name of that movie.
He says, that baby is white. That is a Slavic child, a Viking child from the mountains of Caucasus. That baby has a 720 credit score right now. It is, just do yourself a favor, look it up on YouTube, and you will be like, holy cow. It's amazing. I wonder that. I don't know. It's like if I was walking in a locker room, I can't be like, my dad is African-American, but you know, his dad is indeed African-American. He just looks whiter than me. I'm guessing that is probably in locker rooms, and you know how locker rooms are. You know that he has dealt with a lot of stuff.
That's a joke a lot of the time.
100%.
And it's honestly, it's probably a lot of his African-American teammates going up like, what's up, ma? You know,
yes.
and they're playing it with him, knowing that he's not going to play the other way.
Dude, I guarantee that dude gets it coming and going in locker rooms and has for his entire life.
Well, I want to switch over to the WNBA briefly because I saw this on Twitter. We only have time for this one more story, but two-time MVP Asia Wilson is an ally to her teammates, which is a great thing. Pride Month just ended, but she posted on Twitter or on X that every year, I guess she posted this on her Insta, it's been picked up all over Twitter. Every year, I get my prideful teammates a cake for Pride Month. This year's cake was top tier and straight to the point for them. If you see the cake, it has rainbows on it, and it reads, "Hooray, you gay!" And it has scissors scissoring. And that's how she
What does that signify?
She is my favorite WNBA player now.
Two-time MVP.
Yeah, first off, she's easy on the eyes. Yeah, she is two-time MVP. And didn't they win back-to-back titles?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All that being said, that's the greatest cake of all time.
It is a square pink cake with rainbows and disco balls on it. And it doesn't even say "you are." It says "Hooray, you gay." And then it has the two scissors that are facing each other.
Is it wrong that I now want to, there's at least 3 friends that I want to buy this cake for?
I think it's fantastic.
But instead of scissors, I'd have to put something else. Well, it's another one. Let me just say, like, it's the same thing with the Hartenstein thing and now this. Locker rooms are great. Like, there's a lot of bad things that are associated with locker rooms, okay? Like hazing and all that stuff, because we hear a lot of bad things about that. But one of the great things that sports does is it takes race, it takes gender, it takes sexuality, it takes socioeconomic status, where you grew up, religion, all that stuff, and it just flushes it down the toilet. And you are all part of one big screwed up, mixed race, mixed religious family where you can have something like that and you can laugh about things and you're all brothers and you're all sisters and you're all family. And if we took a little page out of a locker room and lightened up a little bit and tried to love one another despite your differences, this world would be a better place. And I love, and let's be honest, again, in a league, and it's like people get mad when you say it, dude, there's a lot of lesbians in the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, representation-wise, there's a ton of the league was celebrating Pride Month, a ton of her teammates celebrating Pride Month.
Yes, and the fact that someone who was straight thought it appropriate and her teammates could support that.
Congratulating them on it.
Hooray, you gay. I'm sorry. It's brilliant.
It's wonderful.
It's brilliant. And we should all be more like this. That is phenomenal. I don't know where you get this cake made, but I'm trying to take this to a local cake maker and be like, I would like you to make this, please.
I mean, it's way better than just getting like the cake that resembles an anatomy. Now you can get a pair of up tops, or you could get a pork sword down there. But like, no, she took some creative license. She had a couple ideas and she rolled with it.
Best, dude. That is just an all timer. No offense to Caitlin Clark, you're old news. I've moved on to a new favorite WNBA player, and then felt the need.
Caitlin Clark is white.
Well, coming up in the club, we need to hear about Will's experience in Vegas. Clay Travis has shared something on X today that I think Souk would be into, so we're going down that road again. And then $10 million Medford mansion. Would you pull the trigger? We'll get to all that coming up in the club. Plus, she's been found, and now she has celebrity friends.
Dude, spit on that thing.
This is Primetime on 1080 The Fan.
said it to the guys I was playing with. I've never seen that before. Apparently, Sauce Gardner, for whatever reason, came across my timeline. And Sauce Gardner's playing golf in the rain without a shirt on.
Yeah.
I was playing just at my little, my Fairway Village, my little home course there, my little 9 holes. I was playing last night. I was playing a little twilight golf.
Perfect.
And I was playing with these two dudes, and it was hilarious because a lot of times I go to Fairway Village. It's it's an old folks retirement community, so it's not like a par 3, but it certainly isn't I think the longest hole is like 450 yards. And a lot of times I go rolling up there, and I look a little sketch, right? Like you could tell the old people are like, I don't like the look of this. I played with dudes, 2 guys yesterday that had longer beards and more tattoos than me.
Nice.
And I was like, all right, this is gonna work. And we were on like hole number 6, and it was like one of those where it's such a condensed little course that the next fairway over, you can just like you're like in like ships passing in the night.
Sure, yeah.
And it was kind of twilight, and I looked over there, and I was like, does that guy have his shirt off? I was like, or is he just wearing like a flesh? Like, is it from a distance? And the guy I was playing with looks at me and goes, no, that guy's got his shirt off, and he's playing with these 2 old people. And I thought to myself, I have never ever seen someone play a round of golf and thought in the middle of that, I'm just gonna go ahead and pop. I'm gonna pop this top off.
Yeah, man.
We did it all the time in college.
Did
Really?
you? Shirtless golf?
With 40s.
And then sure enough, I see Sauce Gardner today golfing without his shirt on. I was like, well, I've seen it now twice.
Yeah, in
You've
Ellensburg.
golfed without your shirt on?
Well, no. You start with the shirt on. In Ellensburg, holes 1 and hole 2, you can be seen from the clubhouse. By the time you get to the green of hole 2, you take your shirt off. You can't
you have
be
a whole
seen.
system for it? Jeez.
Yeah.
How bad did you want to get that shirt off?
Well, I got to work on my tan. I can't be
If
pasty
you ever
and
watch
white and
Naturally.
fat
again,
and
Will
balding.
loves to push back when I say that he is just the broiest of the bros.
I do not push back on being broy.
You do.
Not at all. I'm just saying you used to be as well, and now you're just projecting onto me.
Never have I played golf and thought to myself, you know what I need to do right now? Got to pop this. No.
You need to be tan. You can't be pasty and white.
Never.
Come on, man.
And by the way, I don't think you can get a tan at 7 at night.
Well, I
don't
wasn't golfing at 7
I
at
think
night.
that's optimal. I just had never seen that before. And my man over there just shout out to the dude on number 5 there at Fairway Village last night about 7 o'clock, taking off the top.
I love it.
Just out there, sunning those nipples with some twilight golf.
There was
Sauce Gardner.
There was one round of golf that I played with my wife where it was like cold and rainy in the morning, and then the sun broke through and it got warm in a hurry. It was, I don't know, it was probably May or June a year or 2 ago, and we were both wearing long sleeves with vests over them. We both went shirtless under those vests for the rest of the round.
Really?
Yeah, we did.
Wow.
I know. Not gonna find that form again.
Unzipped chesticles just hanging out.
Something like that.
Boy, I just can't. I'm trying to think of a circumstance on a golf course where I would take off my shirt, and I'm not seeing that.
To be fair to Sauce, he said, if we play football in the rain, I'll play golf in the rain too. He took his shirt off because it was raining, I guess.
No, he took his shirt off because he wanted to take his shirt off. There's always that one guy that he's like, what is it, 62 outside? Get a little warm, better pop this top. Dude, if you're taking your shirt off because it's raining, brother, you just wanted that shirt off from the get-go. That thing wasn't staying on very long.
Remember that was the Tim Tebow Jets training camp thing,
Yes,
right? The whole running in the rain shirtless.
Yeah. Don't mind me, I just take this off. It's Mike, or you do the Mike Gundy. Hey, if the crowd goes nuts right now, take my shirt off. I don't want to, unless you guys want me to.
Should I do it? The muscle man. Everybody wants it. I'm just doing it because everybody wants it.
I think you need a little whimsy in your life, Suit. Go out to Fairway Village and take the top off.
Boy, I don't even know what would happen. You just roll out there. I guess you don't do it on on hole 1. Yeah. You wait, but what does your playing partner say? I never go out there with anyone else. I always golf by myself, and I always just get paired up with people. I'm just trying to think of what would happen if 2 65-year-old men are out there with me. I'm like, hey, you guys mind if I pop this rain here real quick? Oh yeah, by the way, the shirt's.
I'm gonna pop the top off too.
Shirt's coming off.
You don't ask, you just do. You ask for forgiveness later, like I didn't know I couldn't do that here. Costanza.
Yeah.
If you've been following Sauce Gardner's timeline, over the course of like a week and a half, he has blown up with his golf interest. He's being followed everywhere. I guess he just broke 100 or 90 for the first time. He basically just discovered the game, and now he's tweeting at PGA pros. They're asking guys on tour at their tournaments about Sauce playing. He's going to be one of those guys that is, appears in a match, I'm sure, sometime soon.
Well, not if he's shooting 100. He's not.
No. I said he picked it up like 2 weeks ago and he broke 100 and he already broke 90. And he's like he's getting tips from everywhere. He's putting a simulator in his house this week. Like he got like the golf hooks found their way into Sauce late in life and they are not going anywhere.
No, he is a world-class athlete. You would think, world-class athlete, muscle memory. Dedicate yourself to golf. I'm not going to say that he's not going to be good. I'm guessing that guy is one of those dudes that can be good at anything that he wants to be good at. I'm just saying, like, most places, just put a shirt on.
Vancouver text line is in.
There's a time and place.
They say, don't feel bad, Will. Suk once scolded Adam Bjornson for taking our shirts off in the car on the drive home from playing the reserve.
Yeah.
He has no time for shirtless tomfoolery.
Let me also state for the record, yes, Bjornson, that was weird as all get
Be
out.
proud of your body. Just take the top off. Who cares?
You're just getting in your car with your buddy. You're like, hey, bro, you know what we should do right now? Let's pop these tops. What?
We look sweet. Just got to pump.
And it's bad enough. Now, I swear to God, every gym you walk into, anytime you walk into the locker room, there is a chance that there's two broccoli-haired douches standing in the bathroom, shirtless, filming each other. Yeah! Check this out. I just want to be like, oh, for the love of God.
I walked in on that one today, but I'll tell you what.
Yeah!
I'd rather have the broccoli-haired bros than old man River walking around with everything hanging out. Because apparently at 70, 75, you just don't need to wear a towel anymore.
No, that is
probably
true.
Earlier, if we're being honest.
Yeah. Look, and I have no problem. I mean, the nudity thing I'm all about, but there's
Doesn't sound like it.
There's a time and a place for being like, yeah, if it's like a naturally occurring thing, but it is so weird to me when bros are like, hey, you want to stare at each other, stare at each other's pecs, and then I think it's the posting of the photo that I think is especially weird.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Because after jiu-jitsu, you wear a gi and then you wear a rash guard.
Sure.
So I'll take my rash guard off and I'll sit there shirtless while I'm trying to cool down. Because you get off that mat and it's 1,000 degrees. And if you don't stop sweating, you take a shower and then you just keep sweating. And so some guys after class want to take pictures to post. And I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not.
This ain't a picture taking gym guy.
Yeah, we're not doing that. And then occasionally they'll be like, come on, get in one. And so I'm like, okay. So I go to put my rash guard back on. They're like, no, man. Let's all go shirtless. And I'm like, no. Let's not all go Let's not all go shirtless. That is such a
But if we all do it,
it's just odd. I've never me shirtless, fine. But when it's some sort of weird collective thing, or you're on a golf course, you're like, yep, this is just meant for everybody.
This is the peak of the male athletic form.
And it's usually not someone, honestly, if Sauce Gardner wants to have his shirt off, by all means,
sure.
Dude, that guy is absolutely shredded. Matthew McConaughey, I get, or even if you're running, Sprague's a shirtless runner.
Sure.
I totally get that.
Fine.
You're working out.
Yeah.
If you're working out outside, I totally get that. You pop the top or whatever. But you're in a commercial gym, for God's sakes, leave your shirt on.
Yeah.
You look like a moron. You just look like the world's biggest douche. And by the way, it's against the rules, but you're that guy. It's no, man, this is so ripped. My shirt can't.
It's the same thing with the guy who wears the white tank top all the time. Don't love that look.
It's just
the wife greeter.
Yeah, I didn't know the appropriate way to handle it, and I just said it that way.
I've been trying to navigate this because I owned that type of tank top, and I wear them frequently around my house.
Right.
But I wasn't even comfortable with the phrase that much back when everybody was saying it. Now I'm especially less so. I've heard wife greeter. I've heard, wife a wife neater. There's other ways you can go with it.
We're not allowed to say wife beater
No,
anymore?
I think you can. It's just
I'm sure someone will get
it's
upset.
It's always been so like a wife beater.
Well,
Like,
I'll tell
I don't
you
know.
what, when the dude for domestic violence stops getting arrested in his tank top, then we'll start calling it something else. When people
Not
start,
unfair.
When people start getting their MBAs in that, then I'll start calling it the MBA top. But until then, dude, that thing's a wife beater. You know it.
And I like wearing that, and I will wear it. Like if I've got a nice shirt on, I'll wear it underneath, but I'm not wearing that exclusively to the gym. If you wear that exclusively to the gym, I just assume you skip leg day and only do curls and bench press.
All I know is that, like, if I got into a car, because me and Will go to the same, we lift at the same gym. And I've had to get a ride a time or two from him, and he's always been very gracious. Even came back once to pick me up. I got a flat on my bike, and it was very nice. But if you circled back to pick me up because I had a flat, and I went to get in your car and you had your shirt off, I'd be like, first off, put your damn shirt on. Like, I'm not getting in the car. I would rather walk home than drive in a car with you shirtless. It's not going to happen.
The Vancouver Report text line asks, Jason, when was the last time you loved your body?
I think you need to have some more whimsy in your life. It doesn't sound like dudes are allowed to have fun around you anymore.
I think that's not true, because Suk has long been a champion of the I'm shirtless around home all the time guy. I don't have to share it with everybody.
Yard work shirtless. We're at the beach, first one to come off. But again, time and place. And if that is coming back to pick me up, put a shirt on. Like, so there's a little park by my house, and sometimes I'll do an outdoor workout there. The shirt's never on for that, right? Like you run around. There's a little like path you run around. There's like push-ups and like pull-up bars and all that. But then I'll walk to the New Seasons to get something to eat. And guess what I do when I walk in the New Seasons? I put on my damn shirt. Because no one, while picking out vegetables, needs to see my big Viking ass in there with my sweaty back hair and my man nips like, hey, babe, check this out. You like this glisten right here?
Well,
you
no shirt, no shoes, no service.
There's a reason why it says that.
Yeah, but my car is not a no shirt, no shoes, no service. There's no service going on.
Yeah, there is service. The service is giving me a ride, and you're going to put a shirt on. Otherwise, I'm going to have to violate my rule of don't fight naked. I'm like, well, let's do this.
Car Jitsu is back.
I don't think you're getting a ride home if you're trying to fight me.
Getting some distressing news from the Vancouver Report text line. According to Fairway Village GC's rules, a shirt must be worn at all times.
Yeah, not according to what I saw. According to what I saw yesterday. Although the guy that I was playing with, dude, he had a beard. Like it was a goatee that like went down to his belly button.
Duck Dynasty dude,
like way longer. Like think like Anthrax like bass player.
Okay.
And then he had it like tied off like every 6 inches. And he was like a diesel mechanic. It was like right up Central Casting. And when I said, dude, have you ever seen that? I goes, I've never seen that. He goes, I've seen it once. He goes, right before we got kicked off the course. I was like, yeah, it's about right.
How long do you think that guy's been growing that?
I was going to ask him that, but then I was like, don't.
No, you're a fellow beard bro. You could have got away with it.
I did say before we teed off, I said, this is the first time I've ever played golf with someone, 2 people that have longer beards and more tattoos than me. And they were like, we're going to get along fine.
Sounds like a hell of a trio.
I think you should have popped your top so then you let them know who the alpha in the
should have
group
invited
was.
Ortner to do it for you. Here's my son.
The big bearded guy did take off his shirt momentarily to show me he has a giant Viking tattoo that he's working on his back. So he did pop the top long enough for me to see like a full back piece, like 3/4 of the way done. That was a big Viking. I was like, yeah. I was like, this was just a threesome meant to happen. Yeah, just a Viking menage a trois out there on the golf course. But then the shirt came back on, and we proceeded about our merry way.
Dudes can't have fun anymore. This is ridiculous.
Well, we know that girls are still allowed to have fun. Last week, we thought we reached a week-long cycle that finished with being at the center of the spotlight. I thought that was going to die off over the weekend.
No.
Oh, how wrong I was. We found her, and now she has celebrity friends. That's next
Spit on that name.
on The Fan.
That's one draft down.
and financial situation, news situation you could possibly have imagined.
She took the country by storm.
No one really knew where Hawk Tuah Girl was. We knew that the Man on the Street interview rather took place in Nashville. Well, that was until Saturday night when she turned up on stage at a Zach Bryan concert in front of tens of thousands of people.
And the crowd went wild.
They went nuts. She's back in the limelight. Her name is Haley Welch or Welsh, depending on where you read it. But she's now done a podcast, I think, with Zach Bryan's girlfriend of all people.
Yeah, Brianna Chicken Fry.
There you go. And she also, I needed to make sure that I wasn't getting like ball sacked and it wasn't a fake account. Shaq. She was with Shaq, of all people.
Reason, she's hanging out with Shaq.
Well, it was under his account at DJ Diesel, which I think he also has at Shaq, but he does legit EDM DJing. Yeah. And so I saw a photo. She was at one of his shows by the turntables, and then they were, I don't know, somewhere afterwards or beforehand or something. It appears that she's now about ready to cash in on that 15 minutes of fame.
Oh, yeah. She's got her Twitter account now and selling merch, and it's...
My buddy has her hat.
She got the Tua 24 spit on that thing.
He's got the Hawk Tua, the gray one.
It's unbelievable. Well, so we've seen...
But like people are like... And now she's getting hate. It was at... Jason Whitlock, who's a horrible human being.
Oh, the worst.
Jason Whitlock called her like a whore. He was like, a girl goes and presents herself as a whore. I'm not sure how she presented herself as a whore.
Don't get me wrong, I like the tatted up whore too.
And he was like, what's wrong with society? Yeah, the Hawk Tuah Girl has become very, very polarizing. Will's in love with her. Will wants some of the Hawk Tuah Girl.
Yes, I do.
I can see if you're of that age.
I can see the allure.
I can see where I can see where Hawk Tuah Girl. She's no Edmonton Oilers girl, but that's probably a little more my age.
But you know what? They both have fun personalities.
Yes.
I prefer her to Oilers girl.
Well, like I said, Oilers girl I think is a little more mature with the kind of the like a muscle mommy sort of thing going on.
She's got the rough around the edges,
yeah.
Great North.
Yeah.
She's got some tats. Hawk Tuah Girl seems a little more wholesome.
A little more Nashville wholesome, but not really.
So
she's got the accent. That's hot too.
Very much so. Among the things that she's discussed on the podcast and now other places, there was this rumor going around that she'd been fired from her job as a preschool teacher. Not true. She said she's not even sure she's old enough to be a preschool teacher.
She's an educator too, you say?
No, she's not, Will. That was the rumor.
Darn it, we could have bonded over that.
Did it say what she actually does? I saw that she's not a teacher, and she obviously didn't get fired. But I didn't see if she actually said what she does besides now just be Hawk Tuah Girl, and she's going to make a bunch of money off of
I'm
this.
trying to read up a profile, or have tried to, without actually diving into the podcast she was on because I don't care enough to listen to it. I have not found out what her actual occupation is other than being a hot. It says that on the podcast here, that she is not a teacher, and she also said her dad is not a preacher, which is another rumor that had been spread. She said farthest thing from it. Didn't really get into, at least as far as I can tell, what she does do for money. But apparently it's not going to be much for long anymore because she showed up at that concert, was a huge deal. There are people already trying to make merch. Then I saw some of the, I guess, proposals for work for her. Mm-hmm. We haven't even gotten into like what, an OnlyFans or what an adult film company could offer.
I said if she wanted to, and who knows, if she started an OnlyFans, she would make $10 million in the first month.
Because what we said, that Cash Me Outside girl made that much money.
Cash Me Outside, how about that? She made $10 million the first month that she joined OnlyFans, and I don't think she went like full nude. I think she went nude and then like covered stuff up. And she made $10 million. Hawk Tuah Girl would make so much money.
I saw a golf course in the Nashville area was offering to pay her $300 an hour to be a cart girl and keep all the tips that she wanted. That seemed like that was still lowballing for what would be probably a minimum wage job in the first place.
She ain't doing anything for minimum wage at this point.
No.
Hawk Tuah Girl is going to be cashing in. If you want to get if you want a piece of Hawk Tuah, I'm guessing that starts at six figures.
I also saw that somebody was offering $600 for her to spit in a jar.
I'll bet you that's one that she could do. I bet you she could start selling.
Celebrities who could sell their panties or their bathwater. Like, you don't think she could sell a Hawk Tuah? Of course she could.
She said it was gross. I watched a little bit of the podcast
Yeah, so
for
enlighten us.
research purposes.
Yeah, what did you find out, Will?
Besides the fact that you love her.
Well, so what they did is they would list like famous celebrities and whether she would hawk Tua or not.
Okay.
So that was her like hot or not.
Okay.
And then basically, I think it was like her hairstylist or somebody was like, hey, will you spit in a jar for $600 so I can sell them? Because people have asked me to buy that from you. And she was like, no.
That's fascinating. Like, you know, the one gal that sells like her farts or they sell the bath water, that is so creepy. But at the same time, it's not really, it's not sexual. Well, I guess it is for that person, but you're not doing anything like perverted necessarily. And gosh, that's a lot of money. Like if someone was like, dude, spit in this or, you know, pee in this and here's $600, I don't need $600. That's not going to change my life. I think I'm doing that for $600.
I found her occupation. You won't. Well, I don't know what she actually does at this place. You will never guess what type of a company she works for.
Hooters?
Incorrect. Darn it. She works at a spring factory. Like a factory that makes, you know, the little metal coils. A spring factory.
Not anymore, she doesn't.
She said, and that's in her small Tennessee hometown, and she said she was getting ready for her graveyard shift at 2 a.m. when she spotted herself going viral.
Wow.
I bet she's not working that graveyard shift much more.
No, I'm guessing that if she's at all smart, and this is why, like, I wonder, and I said this when she first went viral, even if you've got a little, like, moral, like, I don't know if I'm really comfortable doing this, $10 million, $20 million over a couple months, and you never have to work again.
That's always the thing, right? Like there's this old joke that you know, a lady of the night comes up to a man and says, "Hey, like I'll let you," or a guy comes up to a woman and says, "You know, would you let me have relations with you for $10?" And she's like, "No, like what do you think I am?" And he's like, "Okay, how about for $1 million?" And she's like, "Okay." And he goes, "Okay, now how about 100?" And she goes, "No, what do you think I am?" He goes, "We already decided what you are. Now we're just deciding on a price." Like that's so like at what price are you just willing to compromise whatever ethos and morals and everything else you have?
I think everyone's got a I think everyone's got a tag. It's true. Like yeah, this is gonna live forever, and yeah, it's some people are gonna call you some names, but you know.
But if that's gonna happen anyways,
well,
at least cash in.
Like I think about that if that was like, because I have 2 daughters. If they came to me, I'd be like, honey, please don't do that. But if you do, I totally understand it. Like if someone came to me and was like, Sue, you just got to make a couple like really awkward videos of you. I think you're gonna be more than shirtless, and we're gonna post some stuff, but. You know, at the end of the year, dude, you're never going to have to worry about money again, and you can live the life you want to live, and your kids are taken care of. I'd be like, oh, boy.
Because the elements of it...
I'm like, let's go, boys.
The elements
It's about to get real uncomfortable.
The element is there that the embarrassment is already hit, if there was any. Like you have already gone viral. Like, this thing is... The hay is in the barn as far as you being, like, found out, had, identified, aired out in the media. People called you all the names. At that point, why... Like, if... Not taking the money meant that you could undo all of that, I could understand, sure. But if it's already all out there, cash in, baby.
Hawk Tua at 24. I mean, there's a difference, though, between like being accused of something and then posting yourself for the entire internet to see.
You know, 100%.
Yeah, but no. I'll be interested to see where it goes, because she actually seems like a fairly decent person.
It does seem that way.
The Catch Me Outside girl is a horrible person. Dude, that is, you want to talk about something sad.
She's a mother now.
Yeah, I know. God bless America. Like, you want to talk about the downfall of society, I give you that, girl. Hawk Tua girl seems at least somewhat reasonable. She seems like she's at least got some sort of backbone in that whole thing. But we'll see. We'll see where she goes from here. Again, you put enough money in front of someone, and I love that analogy of the $100. No, $1 million, maybe.
Yeah. Like, what kind of a person do you think I am? Well, we've already decided. We're just negotiating on the price now.
I said good for her, but I worry about society. It's doomed. Dude, society's been doomed long before Hawk Tua girl.
Yeah, and she's not going to be the downfall.
No.
That's for sure.
No, there's way worse things going on than Hawk Tua girl.
I follow an account called Zillow Gone Wild. It's not Girls Gone Wild, but it's more of the real estate variety of awesome stuff in the housing world. Casa de la Nueva Vida. Sounds like an exotic place. but it's nestled in the Rogue Valley in Medford. What could make you pay $10 million for this home? We'll get to that next after Will with SportsCenter.
Now, from the fans.
in the woods in the snow?
That was during COVID, yes.
That's you?
I was practicing social distancing.
Yeah, Will Will apparently is working out in the snow with a mask on, gloves, shirtless with his buddies as they squat down and take a selfie while looking as tough as humanly possible.
There's like 8 guys. Hey, dude, I couldn't find the golf picture, so I found you a workout photo.
Do you have a TikTok, Will? Do you make TikToks?
Not really.
Okay.
Have you reached that point where you look back and realize how much of a dumbass you were, or are you still like trying to convince yourself?
See, look
that
at you just out here hating. I can't have fun anymore. Dudes can't have fun anymore. This is sad.
I'm not saying that at the
It's
time
sad.
it wasn't fun. I'm asking, have you
Sad.
reached the point in your life? Because you'll get there. Oh, I'm sure I have photos
It's
like
sad.
this. I just can look back on them and be like, oh my God. Like
America, yeah!
how dumb
Shots
was
balled,
I?
yeah!
I see tweets every once in a while when you get the 10 years ago you tweeted this, and I go, ugh.
Will's shirtless. He's like, he's got his arms folded. He's trying to flex. He's like,
I look great, dude. That's a great photo.
Yeah,
I stand by
flex.
that.
ooh, you're like that. You're like that. Those two dudes, the Monster Energy guys that are like shirtless. Like, I'd hate to be the one to mess with us.
Yes, sir, dude.
They're like, yeah.
No one messed with me back in college. I'll tell you what. I look great in that photo. You cannot talk me down. That's 315 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, brother.
Sure, that's terrifying.
What percentage of the time was your shirt off when you were in Vegas?
Not a lot.
I
but
mean,
it
you
was
can't
a
do it on
lot.
the casino floor. You can't do it in the sports book. You probably couldn't do it on your golf course or at dinner. So my guess is maybe not much.
No, it was a lot of shirt open as I walked to the pool.
Oh, yeah,
like
aired out a little
unbuttoned
bit.
shirt.
And that's fine. Again,
Sure.
Vegas, you know,
There were some moms that were appreciative.
Yeah, you're fine.
But no one your age.
Look, the clientele at the old Hooters Hotel, I wasn't going out and asking what was going down or what was happening.
You're telling me the young hots don't flock to the Hooters Hotel
In
and
a
casino?
shocking development, they do not.
Yeah.
Bet you have a good time at that Hooters Hotel, though. You just fish in a little older pond.
You know where I bet you get some...
I did just fine.
Be just fine.
I wore a shower cap the first day. It was a whole thing.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I lost my fantasy football thing. So
Oh,
like
you
my
lost, you
punishment.
basically lost a bet, kind of?
Yeah, I had to walk around the strip for 24 hours with the shower cap. There were a lot of people that were very shocked that I was not trying to get waves or braids.
Oh. Yeah, so, I mean, was that miserable for you, or you were just like, nah, it is what it is?
Nah, just embrace it. Like, the more you, steer into it, the better it is.
Yeah.
And, it's funny when a Uber full of, 3 women stop and ask what's going on under your shower cap, and then you, show a bald head. They laughed really hard. So.
I have a buddy who, every year, their league now goes and does a live draft from Vegas, so they all plan a trip around it. Last year, they did it from that circus swim that is the outdoor sportsbook casino with the pool. Yeah. It looks incredible, but their loser's penalty is whoever loses has to dress up as the opposite sex and present and put all of the picks on the actual board like Vanna Whitewood letters on Wheel of Fortune. So my buddy lost a couple years ago. He got a nice little kind of an Amish number with a bonnet that went all the way to the floor. That was his penance.
I'm amazed at I've seen those fantasy football ones where people get tattoos and
yeah, the
That's a bit
loser
far.
has to get a tattoo picked by the winner or something. Some of them are crazy. I saw one the other day. Boy, we could get into this. The loser had to spend 24 hours in a 24-hour McDonald's, and I think had to eat an item every hour, but could eat bonus items to cut down on their time that they were there. And there was a whole system for if you eat, the big breakfast with hotcakes, you get 45 minutes shaved off your time. If you do 2 Big Macs, it's an hour. And I've seen something similar done with Waffle House before. Yep. The Waffle House challenge goes to the loser. We've never really had anything like that in our leagues. We've had the loser have to pay for a trophy engraving or for the next trip or something, but the shaming not so much.
I've never played fantasy football before, and my buddy was like, dude, you should play in this. He plays in a league where it's a pretty high end. It's pretty high end, right?
I think you've told me about this one.
Yeah, it's a high buy-in, and he goes, dude, they do there's an ex Major League Baseball player into it, a bunch of business bros.
And they do a big banquet or party at the end, right? Or something like that?
And he goes, dude, trust me. He goes, we won't lose. He goes, he's a super analytic guy. He goes, we won't lose. He goes, I can't say that we'll win, but we won't lose. And so you won't be on the hook because it's a significant buy-in. And they have a big party at the beginning out at this guy's house, amazing house, and then the end party is at a country club, and the rest of the people in the league get to pick the dinner. And the year before, dude, they punished them. They flew in like crab legs from like Russia.
Ooh.
They were, I mean, like anything, and it was like the tag.
It was
on
almost punitive.
Yes, like the price tag on it was, it was well north of $10,000. And so two guys, obviously it's teams of two, so they had to split it. I won't say how much it is, but it was a lot. To where I was like, dude, no. I'm like, I'm not. And he's like, dude, we're not gonna lose. Trust me. So I was like, oh, what the hell? So we'll do it. So we do it, and we didn't finish last. In fact, I think I ended up getting my money back. I think we made enough to where it was a wash for me.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to this party, but the losing group this year, they pulled the, well, we're not doing it. They had like a very reserved dinner. It was a plated dinner.
Like we're dialing it back. We're scaling it back. We're not going to be on the hook for what those guys did last year.
They scaled it back like 80%.
And I'm sure that didn't go over well with the group.
Dude, it was one of the most awkward events I've ever been to. Because like I was just there. Like I was just here because I thought it was going to be a cool party. I didn't have anything to do with any of this.
Before you know it, you can cut the tension with a knife.
Dude, it was so bad because the people that were most upset, guess what? The people that lost the year before, flat out just yelling and screaming. Like, I didn't see you giving a rip about this tag when I paid for it last year. I paid for this. You cheap, you know what?
Especially the person on the hook for the previous years. They got the most right to be pissed.
Well, and here's the thing, too. Everyone at that table could have written that check, and I'm sure it sucks to write a check like that. Trust me, none of these bros were hurting for money. They all had cash, and believe me, they all were pointing out that, you cheap, I've seen you, blah, blah, blah.
Well, this is the whole credit card roulette thing all over again, where it's like, if everyone's admitting to play, then everyone's saying, I've got it, and I'm here for it. Like, I'm here for whatever the bill is. That seems like ducking out on it a little bit.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, and I don't know, I was my last year.
Were friendships ruined?
I don't know, I was just my last year. I didn't play the next year. I was like, you know what, like, I'm not doing this. I was like, the whole point of this is because I heard like this big grandiose party is gonna be great. I got a mediocre plated dinner and a bunch of people yelling at me. I left after like an hour. I was like, dude, I'm at it. I was like, this is weird. People are getting up and storming out.
I got my money back. I don't care, and I'm not here for this.
It was like the worst event I'd ever been to. And there's a great group of dudes, but you get a couple guys that, like, if you're going to do a fantasy football thing like that, you got to make sure that everyone's on board. Because I'll tell you what, like, if I got a tattoo and then the next year someone was like, no,
I'm not doing
it. Dude, them fighting words.
Right.
If I wrote a check if me and my partner wrote a check for like $12,000, $14,000 for a dinner, and the next year someone was like, I'm not spending more than $2,000.
We're capping it at $5,000, guys.
I'm like, yeah, the hell you are. Again, them fighting words.
Right. Well, it was like when we went out for the steak dinner as part of the bachelor portion, we all agreed that 9 of us would split the check and the bachelor wouldn't pay.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, some people started ordering some things, and you started hearing some grumbles from some other guys of like, well, I want to just pay for my portion. It's like, nope, it's even split.
You get into that. I only had this. I didn't have that much, so I can pay $20 less.
Yep. No. We've all gone in. Everyone do the right thing. Nobody order a full bottle of wine. Like, just everyone's going to pay the same, and you're not going to complain about it. I made sure to shut that down as fast as I could.
So I have a scenario that was a little bit like this, and I was traveling with friends, and we were going to a friend's wedding in Europe, and we were in Croatia, and we were having meals that the cuisine of Croatia leaves something to be desired. It's a lot of fried stuff, and then they try to steal from the Italians with some spaghetti-type pasta dishes or whatnot. We had a friend that was so upset that he was getting entrees that he didn't like each night that he would start ordering a backup entree. He's like, I'll have the fish and I'll also have the pasta. And we're like, wait. And we've all agreed at this point, we're older than Will is now. I think we're all close to 30, and we're like, we're not going to do the thing, the itemized bill. We're in another country. Yeah. We're not making anybody go through that. But all of a sudden, there's a couple people looking around like, why am I paying for this dude's 2 entrees?
I didn't order.
So instead of pushing back, everyone's like, well, F it, I'm ordering a second entree. And before you know it, the 12 of us have like 24 entrees at the table at every dinner. And now we're all paying more than we want to because one jackass can't deal with the fact he didn't like his fish the first night.
It's tough when you're in groupthink, man, because it's easy when it ain't you.
Yeah.
Again, we play credit card roulette, and it's real fun when your card doesn't get pulled. But when your card, And there's nothing worse than if your car gets pulled twice. Oh,
well,
it's just devastating. And yet everyone feels for you, but at the same time, everyone's laughing. It's one of those like, you poor bastard. Now I'm gonna laugh.
So the Golden State Warriors' first championship, that team was pretty well known as being very cohesive, and they did something kind of rare among NBA teams. They always went out together as an entire team to eat on the road. Usually guys break off into groups of 2 or 3, 4, kind of go do their own thing. They have different people in different cities they want to visit. The Warriors ended up getting written up for how often they dined together, and people talked about how they thought it affected chemistry and things along those lines. Well, they had a rookie who made his way up to Portland, Festus Ezeli. They were playing credit card roulette every night for a basketball team of 15 dudes.
Yeah.
And Festus Ezeli, as a rookie, just kept getting his card pulled. And you've got guys with the contracts of Steph, Draymond, Clay, but even back then, dudes with monster contracts like Bogut and David Lee, and those guys don't care, and they are running it up. And it got to the point, Ezeli was a little bit of a sensitive dude. He was like near tears one night. He's like, I can't do any more of these dinners. I'm only on the rookie salary. And it took some vets like Steph coming over and being like, dude, we're not going to make you pay the whole. Like, we got it. We're expecting it to be us. It'll even out. Like, don't trip, man. But when you're in that spot, when you're the low man and you're drawing the short straw, tough.
Yeah. When I was in Tampa, I got on the hook for a couple things, and I never had to pay the bill. There was always a couple really cool guys.
And good teammates will do that.
Yes. And it wasn't like exorbitant or like too bad, but like $3,000 to me was a lot.
Yeah.
And I was, it's like, shut up, I'm going to pay it. I'm like, my wife's not going to be happy when I have to explain to her why there's $3,000 and why some dude who's got $12 million but, and I shut up, I paid it. And I don't know if it's because I shut up and paid it and just was like, I'll catch hell for it, but like I'm gonna do it. But I never ended up having to pay for those. There was always 2 or 3 really cool guys that always made sure that like the next day there was always a pile of cash
that's cool.
Yeah. Then I had to explain to my wife still why.
Terrifying few hours overnight between the dinner and the next morning when
and
you're
then
like, honey?
Yeah, she had questions. She's like, why is there a $3,000 cash deposit? What are you doing?
The boys were hungry. I don't know what to tell you.
I was like, I'm dealing some meth on the side in Tampa. I'm doing what I can to make ends meet.
I bought some scratchets.
Yeah, there was definitely shout out to the vets that make sure that the dip ass guy who's making $8,000 a week, which I know seems like a lot, but when you're only making $8,000 a week and you're only going to make it for probably 10 weeks, and we got to last you the rest of the year. It gets a little thin.
Yeah,
it's a little thin if I'm writing checks for $3,000 at Mons Venus.
I think any of those guys in that fantasy league could have afforded, well, I don't know if any of them, many of them could have afforded this house down in Medford. Would you pull the trigger on this $10 million spot? We'll get to that as we wrap it up on The Club next on The Fan.
What's your opinion?
It's thick, it's meaty.
Ever doing one of these shows and you're like, oops, I should have mentioned that a couple hours ago? Well,
Yeah.
I would like to tell you, Jason, that you remember when we were talking about free agency and basketball about an hour and a half ago?
Yeah.
Well, that basketball coverage on the Fans presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile and you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Use their savings calculator to find out how at T-Mobile.com/switch.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I don't need to switch because I'm a proud T-Mobile customer. And I will tell you that not only do you get wonderful things, but you get free Netflix and you get free airline Wi-Fi on any of the major airlines.
And we're going to get to the Medford house tomorrow, but if I'm not mistaken, do you also get is it the MLS or the MLB package you get with T-Mobile? I swear they do one of those
yeah,
two.
They do one of them. You get like the MLB, and there's like certain plans, but yeah. I also have T-Mobile Now Home Internet.
I did note that you are still Suki 2 phones.
Yeah, and
is that going to be that way for a while?
No. The stupid phone I have, the Samsung, it's got a curved screen, so apparently it's the world's hardest part to buy.
Right.
So I ordered one, but it won't come in till like the 6th. So I got this old ass iPhone that I found laying around my house, and so like I switched over to that so I could make calls and stuff.
Right.
But this other phone. That's an actually nightmare now that you can only use the stylus and you can see like a quarter of the screen. Any app, like my banking app and everything, like I still have to kind of log in. Like you have to use like two-party authentication.
The two-factor authentication, yeah.
And I tried just switching everything over because I can't see most of the phone. I can't port everything over
you have to guess where stuff is. I guess I want to log in. That should be up here to the right.
So I've got one phone. Now I'm Suki 2 phones because I have one phone now so I can text and call even though I have no one's contact. So I have to do a lot of like, hey, I'm on a burner phone. Who dis? Or just take like guesses by like, the conversation. I'm like, hey, I think I know who this is. And then I keep the other one around. It only works on like if I have Wi-Fi. But like, again, like when I had to pay my credit card bill, like I can kind of hunt and peck my way through there or my work email. Like I can still try to get my emails through that. And so it's quite a thing. It's like my phone now works like on the Matrix. There's a weird like green glow to it.
Ooh.
And it glitches a lot. But, yeah, I'm still Suki.
So you have like 1 1/4 phones, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, like sometimes like if you can't see the screen at all, you just kind of have to like hold it at a different angle. It's like watching scrambled porn back in the day.
I was just gonna say there's got to be some connection to like childhood being up to no good, like trying to figure out how we can make this work for us. Yeah, that's the one, the scrambled porn.
Yeah, it's like scrambled porn. You're like, I'm trying to answer this email or like find it. Like I was trying to text someone today. I have their number. So I'm like scrolling through like old messages, like trying to get the phone to like, I'm like, hold on, let me just grab their number. Yeah, it's quite interesting.